Good evening and welcome to the July 9th, 2013 meeting of the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners. Just briefly, tonight's a little bit of a strange night. We started the meeting an hour early, and at 8 o'clock we're going to cease the regular session and go briefly into executive session. If we haven't gotten all the business on the agenda done by 8 o'clock, we will come back then into regular session. This is because we will be needing to meet with our Labor Council, who isn't available until 8 o'clock. So that's why things are going to be a little out of order this evening. You have the roll call, please?
Present tonight, Selectman Holmes, Selectman Titlebaum, Selectman Slavin, Selectman Tropiano, and Selectman Whiteside are on their way. Okay. Town Administrator is present, as is Town Council.
Next item, please.
Announcements. Steve, any?
Yes, in continuation of Steve's tour around town, we did manage to enjoy another fine breakfast down on Main Street. My daughter came down. Also, we visited with the folks at Stonebridge in their new porch deck. Had dinner there, which was really lovely. It's a very nice, quaint setting, seeing all the boats come in, so that was very nice. Today, I managed to get a close-up of this, Bob. I got a nice haircut downtown at Harry's from Gone Hollywood, and a nice haircut today there. So I continue my tour, and that's my announcements these days, is just spotlighting different places that trying to encourage people to, you know, use our businesses here and spend your money here because it helps out a lot. But I thought that Main Street, it looks really good, but we do need to keep reminding them to finish those white lines. Because when you go around that corner, and you don't see a curb there, especially at night. And I don't know why some of it's white line and some of it isn't, but maybe we can keep pushing Sal on that.
Yeah, they're going to work on
So that's all I have. Thank you.
I have one issue for tonight. Safety notice from the Office of the Harbor Master. On July 9, 2013, the Wareham Harbor Master Department received a report of a Portuguese man-of-war in the vicinity of Parkwood Beach in Wareham River. While this is not a common occurrence, it's still normal. To date, we have only received one report this summer. The Portuguese man-of-war has made its presence known around Buzzards Bay, the Cape, and the islands this summer. Water currents and wind direction have contributed to the increased sightings this year. Portuguese man-of-war can usually be spotted on the water surface by their inflated, gas-filled float, which is attached to the main body of the creature. The inflated pouch is generally translucent, tinged with pink, purple, or blue. Swimmers and beachgoers should pay close attention to their surroundings and keep clear if one is spotted. The tentacles that extend from the main body of the man-of-war have the capability of reaching lengths in excess of 100 feet and can deliver a sting in the water or draped along the shoreline where they can be stepped on. If you believe that a Portuguese man-of-war has stung you, it's recommended to seek medical attention to help prevent further complications from the sting. Thank you.
Okay, next item, please.
Citizens' participation? Seeing none.
Next item.
Lieutenant Walczak, could you come forward?
Good evening, John. Thank you for coming in. The purpose of having you come before the board tonight was to award you a certificate acknowledging your recent citing by the, in a pleasant way I mean citing, don't look at them that way, by the Massachusetts Emergency Management Association as part of the Northeast States Emergency Consortium. Lieutenant Walczak has been honored as the Emergency Manager of the Year. So I'd like to read this into the record. Board of Selectmen, Wareham, Massachusetts, awards this certificate of recognition to Lieutenant John Walczak for being selected as the 2013 Massachusetts Emergency Manager of the Year Award by the Northeast States Emergency Consortium. The Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the town and the community, wish to commend and thank you for your professionalism, dedication, and service to the town of Wareham. Signed this 9th day of July 2013. Wareham Board of Selectmen, Peter W. Teitelbaum, Chairman, Alan H. Slavin, Clerk, Stephen M. Holmes, Patrick G. Tropiano, Judith Whiteside. May we please have a round of applause. I just want to briefly say that during the blizzard in February, I had the opportunity to see Lieutenant Walczek in action at our warming station, which soon turned into an ad hoc emergency shelter for over 100 people. And I want to say that for over 2 straight days, Lieutenant Walczek ran around town picking people up. He helped out at the shelter immensely. He coordinated the actions of the police department with the fire departments, the EMS. He was a whirling dervish for all of those 2 days. And I think it was Sunday, or even perhaps Monday, I finally said, "You got to go home." And he refused to listen to me for about 4 more hours, and then eventually did go home. I think he slept for about 4 hours and was right back at it. It's nice to have a man of John's integrity and compassion and human decency as a senior officer on our police department, and we're all thankful for that. Thank you, John. Next, please.
Consent agenda, I have no bills or documents to sign. Next item up is licenses and permits. We have one for Barnacle Bob's Inc., DBA Barnacle Bob's, and/or BB's. This is a continuation from last week where it was somehow missed on the agenda that it wasn't listed, so we couldn't vote on it. I have basically a common vic license for Barnacle Bob's Inc., DBA Barnacle Bob's, and/or BB's, 2424 Cranberry Highway, and it's common vic license, and that's it for this year. So we just need I'll make that as a motion to go ahead and award them a common vic license.
Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 3-0-0. Next, please.
Thank you all. Funding source for contract 2. I'd like to hold that off to the rest of the members are here because it's really going to be just setting a date for a workshop to sit down and work on the basic funding for contract 2 where we had the shortfall.
Fair
There's
enough.
no other sewer business. I'd like to go a little bit out of order because we have some people here from Boston, and we've also got the town moderator and FinCom here as well today. So what I'd like to do is take, if it's okay with the board, item number L, Route 6 and 28 project for discussion.
That's fine. Please come up. You almost have to eat these microphones. They are not very sensitive, so put them just about where you see me with mine. Thank you.
This will be a continuation of the project that we basically had discussions a couple weeks ago on a Friday where we had an all-day seminar for the town residents, businesses, et cetera, to talk about the 6 and 28 project with any input. The group had already made quite a few changes to the actual project, and this is just basically at this point here for the board to go ahead and approve as is so they can move forward and continue the project along for the 25% completion and the pieces that go along with that.
Okay, thank you. My name is Bill Travis. I'm with Mass DOT District 5. I'm the Assistant Project Development Engineer. With me also is Susan Kremer from VHB, who is the consultant that is designing the project. As you know, for quite some time, we've had the 6 and 28 project in development. I think it goes back as far as the late 90s in various starts and stops. And recently, we brought the project forward again up to a 25% design stage. And last July, I believe it was the 7th, so almost exactly a year ago, we had a public hearing, and the project was not received very well. And we received quite a bit of public input, primarily from the businesses along the corridor. After that, we dropped back. We reevaluated the project. We met on a few occasions with the town. We made some we made some
Major.
design modifications to the project, which was brought again to the recent public forum that was held just a couple of weeks ago over at the town hall, or the building next door, where we received more public input, which we will go back and further evaluate, but we are looking for the board's concurrence for us to move forward with the project. And Susan can show you what some of those modifications are if you'd like to see them.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. There were three major modifications that we made to the plans. The first would be the cross-section, where we narrowed the lanes in order to provide 5-foot wide shoulders to provide bicycle accommodation. The second change we made was reducing the limit of the project. Unfortunately, I have roll pans that are not mounted.
That's okay. You've got an assistant here if you need one.
Let's see. Actually, I left these the other thing.
While we're getting set up here, just for the folks at home, Mr. Sullivan has the plans in his office for anybody who'd like to stop by and see what the current version of the plans are, and perhaps can compare them with prior versions to see how some things have changed.
The project was also, originally the project began at East Wareham bypass. It's still going to start there, continue along, and the project's been changed to stop just beyond Red Brook Road. Previously, it was extended all the way down to the bridge. The third change that we made was to look at evaluating a U-turn between the traffic signal at, where am I here now?
It's right here between Main Avenue and the Walmart entrance. It would be somewhere in this vicinity.
Yes,
For,
well,
go ahead. For those who don't understand, where the road will end now is, if you think where Cranberry Chevrolet is on Route 6 and 28, just before that piece is where the road will actually end now for a site piece.
So the typical section still has a 6-foot concrete median with edging on it and has U-turns available at all the intersections and including a mid-block U-turn or between those two signals.
And one thing I'd like to point out on this graphic is, if you can see the green stars that are on the graphic, those are accidents or crashes that occurred, I believe, in a 3-year period through 2010.
2009 through 2011.
Thank you. And the red stars are locations where fatalities have occurred. And there's far too many on there. One is too many. And that's really what's driving the project, is the number of crashes that have happened along the corridor.
Now, one of the things that, when you were here, I think 3 Fridays ago, was to request written feedback from the people who did come down to look at the plans. And could you just give us a general sense of how you found the comments from the most recent public information session as contrasted with last year?
Far less critical, I would say. People are still concerned with how the project is going to impact their properties or their businesses, which we can fully understand. But I think most people, I would say, were satisfied that we had listened to their comments and had tried to address them as much as possible.
Okay. And I know one of the sticking points for this board previously was who was going to retain, or whether the state would retain ownership of the road, and that too has been determined that the state will continue to own the highway.
We're not going to pursue a discontinuance. If the town would like to take over the road, we'd be happy to
No,
make that
thank you.
happen.
No, thank you. I can tell you. I think I can speak for everybody here when it comes to that. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I turn it over to the other members to ask questions?
No.
Questions from anyone? Please.
I apologize for being late.
That's okay.
Well, there was a reason. I had to take my dog to the vet, and she has to have more teeth taken out in them, so I had to cry for a little while. I took statistics as a course, so reading this did not make my eyes glaze over. However, there's some very interesting things in here, and maybe they're not really appropriate to ask at this time, but the Opticom detection seems to me to be something that we as a town should be interested in, maybe not just in this particular stretch of road. My belief is that a little bit beyond the beginning of that, a new housing facility actually was thinking of putting those an Opticom unit at the lights there, and we didn't do it for some reason. I'm not really sure what it is. What I find very interesting is that you're not trying to change people's behavior, because you're not going to, but you're trying to recognize how to make the street safer. Most of your data was taken in December, as I recall.
We did a road safety audit in December.
In December, right.
Yeah, the data was collected over, the crash history, as we said, was collected
Right.
over a 3-year period.
But there was specific data entries for December 11th or whatever it was. So I guess I would say that anything that you counted on December 11th would have been multiplied by about 4,000 times in terms of the current traffic pattern on the road.
We do apply seasonal factors
Yep.
to our data when we do collect it. We realize there's more traffic in the summer.
Right. The day after I read this for the second time, I was coming from Buzzards Bay, and I was approximately across from, I think it was McDonald's, and there's yellow striped lines. In other words, don't even bother to go there. And there was an individual, a gentleman sitting on a motorcycle waiting to turn left. I also passed 4 pedestrians who were trying to cross from one side of the road to the other. It seems to me that we really need to, there are many fixes here that are quick fixes. Cut a bush down, move a couple of pieces of equipment, something like that. But that the long-term fix probably isn't going to be land taking. That's going to just take too much time. It's going to do, it's just going to take too much time.
Well, that is part of the proposed project. There will be
Right.
some strip takings along the corridor.
Right. On the other hand, a nice good old Jersey barrier, or whatever we call them today, if you can't turn into the middle of the traffic, then you can't have an accident. You can run into the Jersey barrier, but you can't you can't cross 2 lanes of oncoming traffic. I grew up around Route 1, which is kind of a similar roadway, although it seems to have graduated into a divided highway, and probably with some major land takings, I would guess. I don't think we have that kind of room here. I didn't go into it that deeply, but we need to do something. I think we need to do the short term. There were 3 sort of levels. We need to do the short term stuff now. The other thing I noticed was that the weather does slow people down. The winter, and when it snowed, there weren't any fatalities. There weren't any biggies. So that people do have some self-restraint, but unfortunately, it's not. It's always seems to be I'm going to beat that light, or I'm going to.
We see that in a lot of our data that
Yeah.
the majority of the crashes do occur on clear, sunny days when the pavement's dry.
So is your recommendation to use the Opticom or not?
We would install Opticom on the new signals that are being put in. If the town already has their equipment outfitted, their fire trucks, their emergency equipment, police vehicles are already equipped with the emitters, we would install it as part of the signal operation.
I believe they are. I believe the fire trucks are. I'm not sure, but even if we didn't have it, wouldn't it be a good idea to put it in there so that when
For
we upgrade?
future use,
Yeah.
if the town, showed that they would be purchasing it in the future. But I think you're already outfitted with it.
Yeah. I mean, it is used by most emergency
Yes.
services.
Yes, that's a common request we get on
Yeah.
all our projects.
Okay. Just want to say it was a very well put together report. I thought that you had done an enormous amount of research and then collating the information. And again, the tone is let's get this done, as opposed to "Are you kidding me?" which is, great. I think we do need to move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Selectman Holmes?
The only question I had was, is there anything on the table to finish the road?
To finish it?
Yes, sir. From ahead of the bay
Oh, okay.
to Onset Avenue at
Yeah,
the lights.
What we're looking at, that would be a future phase of the project. Because of the length of the project, the cost was escalating tremendously. So we were looking at this point to split it into separate phases. So this would be the first phase, and then moving forward, we would initiate a project for the next phase to complete all the way to the bridge.
Because, it just seems to me that common sense, the state is already spending a boatload of money in over the bay, replacing the bridge in that section, right? So if you're coming from Buzzards Bay, you go through this nice new section, and then you have to drive 2 miles, or I don't even think it's that far, 1.5 miles on the old section, and then you're going to get on this new section and go on the vice versa the other way. It would have been nice to see that small, because it's really not, it's not even that congested, that small stretch. It's pretty wide open. It would have been nice to see you finish the job instead of doing it, getting one end done, the other end done, and leaving the middle the way it is now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like I said, funding is the issue, and the part that we are doing first was the
I
section
thought
that had
we
the
had
most
plenty of money
crashes.
in the state. We don't?
The state? No.
Oh, we don't?
No. If we did, we'd give
That's
more
the
to
only
the towns.
comment. I think the ownership has been addressed, so the equipment has been addressed. That's the only question I had, was that, is that going to be part of a phase 2 or 3, I guess, for that stretch of road? And
Right.
it is?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up, just briefly on what Selectman Holmes said, I did hear over the course of the various discussions on this project, people are concerned about the intersection at Onset Ave. That does seem to be, it's a tough intersection.
Yeah.
And I know that in the future, to the extent that highway funds become available, we'd certainly like to put in our bid to get that cleaned up.
I don't think that project or no project really affects that. I mean, it is traffic signaled. You know, when you get to that intersection, so if there's a red light, it means stop, right? And people, I don't know why they drive crazy at that particular intersection, but they do. But this wouldn't help that. People don't obey the traffic lights. Whether it's a new road or an old road, I don't think that's going to help.
Selectman Slavin?
I have no questions. I've gone through all of it. I'm fine right now. Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, or? Okay.
No.
Well,
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and give approval for the road as presented tonight to go forward for the next step.
Second.
motion by Selectman Slavin, seconded by Selectman Holmes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0. Thank you very much for all your hard work.
Looking
And
forward to it.
the changes that have made it a lot more palatable, both to residents and to business, and we appreciate the amount of effort both the state and your firm have put into this.
And we
Thank
still
you.
have significant work to do on the project.
do.
It's by no means complete.
Oh,
There's
no.
still many issues that we need to look into moving forward. But we appreciate your concurrence and your approval of the project moving forward.
When will we expect to see you again?
What do you think, Susan? How long before we get to the next stage? About a year or so?
I'd say that
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next phase would be what we call a 75% submission, which is the first, what we call final design. After that section is done, that's when we get into the right-of-way acquisitions, which will be a lengthy process on this project. There's
Yep.
over 300 takings, easements. They're called acquisitions. They may not be full acquisitions, but easements that we have to acquire. That's going to be a lengthy process. So we're trying to move the project ahead as fast as we can so we can get to that process, knowing how long that will take.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give them a moment to collect their things.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead and call it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, next, again, we're taking things out of order here. We're going to convene jointly with the Housing Authority for an interview and to vote on a Housing Authority member. So if the members of the Housing Authority currently here would please come up and sit down. Okay, will you call up the first applicant, please? I believe the process is to conduct the interviews and then to vote. Good evening, gentlemen.
Laureen Breton, is she here? No.
Can we continue with
Rudy
our...
Santos?
Good evening, Mr. Santos. How are you tonight? Well, the purpose of our meeting tonight, Mr. Santos, to reiterate, is jointly to interview with the current members of the Housing Authority and the Board of Selectmen to fill one position on the Housing Authority. And so this board doesn't usually make interviews too much of a burden. But I'll start with Selectman Whiteside.
Nice to see you, Mr. Santos. Thank you for your letter of interest, and I don't think I have any questions at this time. I guess I do have one. Do you feel that you have too many other commitments that would keep you from spending as much time as necessary on this? How about that one?
I'll answer that in the affirmative. If you check my attendance in any committee I've been on, probably 99% I'm there, unless I get ill or something.
Okay, thank you so much.
But my duties on the board comes first. Not except for my family, but outside of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hall,
Yes, sir.
do you have any questions for Rudy?
I would say that we had had a chance to come before our committee. We just had Laureen Brenton, and I
Okay.
thought she would be
Okay.
the candidate today. So he has had an application, but we haven't interviewed him yet.
Well, this is a joint meeting between both of us, so if you've got any questions you'd like to ask,
No, I know Rudy. I don't know that well, but he's been around a long time like I have. I know Rudy. I think he would be a good member. Sure.
I don't know if he's been
I
around
do.
quite as long as you've done.
No, I don't. That's right.
Almost.
But, well, we'll go back again. Selectman Holmes, any questions for Mr. Santos?
Yeah, good evening, Rudy. How are you?
Fine, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask you, why the housing authority? Why are you interested in that particular position? I know you wrote a nice letter, but if you could verbally express that, I think it'd be nice.
My interest has started way back in Brockton many years ago. I was with the Housing Authority subcommittee called the Scattered Site Housing, and I had to deal with a lot of elderly there. And it also comes back from my background with my grandmother who raised me, and it sort of gave me a heart and a warmth for our senior citizens. And I feel that I can be very helpful in that aspect for my mere presence of wanting the safety, the quality of life for our senior citizens who deserve it.
Mr. Paulides, do you have any questions for Mr. Santos? Thank you. Selectman Slavin?
Evening, Rudy.
Evening.
No questions. Rudy and I are working on a bunch of different committees back and forth. I have no question. He'll do a great job.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's just, I guess to conclude this portion, the only thing I'd say is whenever I see anything good going on in town, I see Rudy right there along with it a lot of the time. So thank you for your showing your interest in this as well.
I thank all of you very much. Thank you. And you're going to owe me $2.
No, I'm not.
Mr. Chairman, I thought we had
Excuse me.
more than one opening on the housing authority.
I'll let Alan handle that one. He's got the information.
There's actually two openings. The second opening, we have an application in. It's the governor actually appoints that opening. There's 4 members, and the 5th member is appointed by the governor directly. So
Okay.
that particular one, I think we have Barbara Beachcombs has applied to the governor's council directly for that one. They'll announce it. We don't have any say on that one.
Well, we don't have the second applicant before us, so at this point, I would ask for a motion.
Actually, we're going to have to vote, so we would, I think just each one of us would poll each one and vote, yes or no for Mr. Santos at this
Okay,
point.
can do a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes for Mr. Santos.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Hall?
Well, I'm going to abstain because we had this other one we applied for, that he applied for, and I don't know why she isn't here, but she never was, Rudy never was before the board to be interviewed, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay, well, I guess the result of the vote is 501.
501 in the affirmative.
In the affirmative for Mr. Santos. The votes, just for the record, were Selectman Whiteside, Selectman Holmes, Selectman Slavin, Selectman Titlebaum, and Housing Authority member Paulides in the affirmative, and Mr. Hall abstained. Congratulations. Thank you once again for stepping up and offering your service to the public. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Bob,
Thank
could
you.
you come forward and sign the form? No, you. I don't think.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have the next item? Actually, we're going to take out of turn continuation of meetings with the FinCom and School Committee? Or are we doing the town moderator and FinCom? Who do we have here tonight? I know we've got the moderator and the FinCom.
I don't believe Mrs. Vagan was going to be available. Rhonda?
Yes, she is.
She is coming late?
It's 7 o'clock.
All right.
Okay.
We'll put that off till then. I would suggest we go ahead with the town moderator.
Yes,
and
please.
the Finance Committee Chair.
Yes,
Discuss.
Mr. McDonald, Moderator Smith, would you step up, please?
Please. That's true.
Actually, that's Chairman McDonald. I have to correct myself here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This item was put on the agenda. We had talked about this probably 3 or 4 months ago. We wanted to get through town meetings, see where we had issues. The town moderator had been before the board with issues that she had in the process, procedure of town meeting to try and get things to run smoother, cleaner, quicker. And this board basically said we would get back to it as soon as we got through town meeting and start working on it. So this meeting here is basically to set up some timeframes, procedures when you want to meet, have a workshop, how you want to set it up. So if we have to do any charter changes, bylaw changes, et cetera, we can have things ready for fall town meeting to make those changes.
Well, I think you just need to keep in mind that on or about July 23rd, you will be setting the dates for the fall town meeting. It's only a couple of weeks away, so time is short. I think the biggest concern on my part, and I believe with the Finance Committee, is the preparation for town meeting and or lack thereof in certain areas. And I think it would be very helpful that if we could sit down and talk about that and make some changes into the actual preparation of the warrant and how that gets put together, and being a little more prepared and informative when articles come up on town meeting, so that we have more information that can be relayed to the voters to help them make their decisions. So I've seen some things over the last 3 years that were bothersome to me, and I've talked to you individually, and I do think that we need to sit down and have some conversations. And I think the biggest thing on the FinCom's part, which I think we've resolved part of, is not getting information to them in a timely manner so that they can act on and do what they need to do and be prepared for town meeting and be able to advise the body. So I'm open to whatever this board would like to do in terms of getting together. There are some issues within the charter that I think if we change would make things easier. And I really would like to see us sit down and work on it. There's been I think town meeting has gotten a little bit better, but it's not quite where we should be. And I really would like to see us work a little harder at making it better.
Selectman Holmes?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I think that, the schedule is basically set. The day-to-day on this, I mean, the Board of Selectmen really don't do a lot of that. That is Mr. Sullivan and his team. So I would recommend that you, as the chairman of the board, and Mr. Sullivan meet with whoever needs to meet on this. I think it'd be not a waste of time, but not valuable time spent by the Board of Selectmen. You and Mr. Sullivan, I think, could deal with this with the moderator and the chairman of the Finance Committee and get it done. I don't think we need 7 or 10 people in a room to figure this out. It's pretty simple.
Selectman Whiteside, thoughts?
Yes. Long, long ago, but still within my memory, one of the most powerful boards or commissions or committees in the town was the Finance Committee. When I came back, I really was surprised by how the Finance Committee felt about itself, how the town felt about the Finance Committee, and what seemed to be a totally different way of doing business. So I'm not sure that the laws, the charters, bylaws have changed so extraordinarily that the Finance Committee should be a tiger without teeth. I think that your recommendations, that your presentations to town meeting are extremely important. I may be wrong, but I would like to see, I'd like to see it better than it certainly was in the last. And that's not meant to be a criticism of any individual at all.
Well, I think we've had some issues, and I think we're trying to correct them. That's one of the things that will be happening over the year. The first thing that, though, is that we have a charter, we have bylaws, and we need to adhere to them. It would make town meeting a lot better if we followed what it said in there. We are simply not given the time to prepare like we should have. We will be prepared, and I think I don't know about tigers without teeth. At this point, I think we have a fairly good committee. We have a strong committee, and I think we can get the work done, but we need the time to prepare. Getting motions 2 days before town meeting is not helpful. Getting information a couple days before town meeting is not helpful. I think the two critical parts are, one, we follow the charter and we follow the bylaw. The other is we need to get our financial house in order, because when we're making recommendations, we need to be able to base that on good, solid financial information. Those are the key elements from the Finance Committee that make us look better and help us to do our job.
Selectman Slavin?
I look at this a little differently than my fellow Selectman Holmes. The Board of Selectmen have responsibilities. Even though we're the executive branch and town meeting is the legislative branch, there are things in the charter and bylaws that we have to do. So, some of the basic simple things is when any article comes before us that is not a citizen's petition article, we have the duty whether to accept or not accept the article for town meeting. And these are things where, because of time issues, whatever, we haven't sometimes done enough work ahead of time to maybe pull articles beforehand before they ever get to the warrant. There are some issues there that I think needs our time. I don't believe we have to have the full 9 members of the Finance Committee and the full members of the Board of Selectmen. I believe you can take one from each one if you'd like, sit down and hash some things out in a very simple way where the issues are, and then come back to the respective boards, come up with some solutions. Then you can have a bulk meeting if you want. But there's no question the Board of Selectmen have issues that we have to resolve as well.
If I might respond to Selectman Slavin, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think what I have seen over the last couple of years is the Board of Selectmen getting the warrant and voting on it the same night without discussing any warrant articles or whether they should be there. I think the better way to do it, what historically has been done going back to Selectman Montmini's time and probably my time of going to town meeting, is that when warrants are first proposed, that the selectmen would get them in a packet and that they would look at it as they were being formulated. And there would be a discussion maybe at that week's selectmen's meeting that we have this warrant article before us, and if there was someone that needed to come in that you needed to talk to, you would have them in, or if it was just something that could be discussed with the town administrator, you would discuss that with the town administrator. I've seen over the last couple of years several warrant articles to which people on the floor have asked questions, and everybody sitting up on the stage is sitting there looking at one another because no one had the answer for it or hadn't done any homework. And I think this is what makes town meeting not work. And I think if you take a look at this last town meeting, and one of the things that was stressed prior to the special town meeting was that the school committee, the finance committee, and the board of selectmen needed to get in a room, and they needed to sit down, and they needed to talk about the budget. And then, and it's not a fun thing to do, and it's not always a pleasant thing to do, but when you come out unified, you come out that you've worked out all your differences, and no, not everybody's happy with it. But when you stand before the body and you say, we've really worked on this and we've done our homework and this is the best we can do, and I think you saw that with the budget, there were only 2 questions asked. I think people have a lot more confidence if they know that the homework has been done ahead of time, and I think that's what's been lacking, in my opinion. We've had warrant articles that have been put on by someone without the board even having any knowledge that they were on there until after the warrant closed. Then all of a sudden, oh my, we've closed the warrant and now we don't know what to do with this warrant articles. The question should be, in my opinion, the question should be asked before the warrant closes. And if you don't have the answers to the questions, then it doesn't go on the warrant. If you don't know what line item it's going to come from, it doesn't go on the warrant. I mean, I think those are the kinds of things that need to be worked out, and it gives the voters more confidence that the leaders of our community have done their homework, and what is on the warrant is important to the town. And they would have more confidence and less questions because the homework has been done on it. And when someone stands to ask a question, you have the answers for them. Just taking one example of the recent easement for a sewer project. I mean, there was a lot of questions on town meeting floor, and everyone's kind of like, well, no one ever asked that. So I think those are the kinds of questions that need to be dealt with before the articles get on the warrant, rather than after the warrant closes. So I think that's something that should be looked at and, should be fixed. I really do. I think historically, and I think Selectman Montminy would agree with me, that back in the days, that's pretty much how it was handled, that nothing got on the warrant unless the board was comfortable that the impact it was going to have to the town, all the questions were answered. And I think with the FinCom too, I mean, I've been to their meetings and they sit there and they say, well, we don't know anything about this. And so when they go to take their vote, they have a 008 vote or a 9 vote because they don't have the information. So I think it's important that we need to really work in the preparation of the warrant and warrant articles, both for this board and for the finance committee, and try to get that information ahead of time so that when you do close the warrant, you know that the warrant articles that put on have a meaningful purpose to the town and you know what the impact is going to be.
Just one piece back. Part of this whole discussion, obviously the town administrator, because of the charter and bylaws, the one he has to present a budget in December, which to me is probably one of the more ridiculous things that we have to do. And the capital planning committee has to submit their 5-year plan by November 15th, I believe, to fit that. And the school committee also has a deadline, I believe, early January, which nobody really met their deadlines this year. We did, but not really. So therefore, we were playing, it was like taking Monopoly money and throwing it out and seeing what stuck. These are all issues. So obviously the town administrator is a major portion of this, which I'm sure he'll have some input as well. But I believe all 4 parties have, actually 5 parties have, a real impact on how this all works. And nobody's really sat down in quite a while and said, I can't do this, I can't do that. Instead, what we should be doing is figure out how do we get this to work right.
Selectman Whiteside?
Well, I recognize it was a long time ago, but it worked a long time ago, and the deadlines did work. And when you are running a company, you are able to best guesstimate using your historical figures. One of the things that we've been hampered by is that we have not had current figures, and now we do. We will presume that they're going to be going forward, having current information, financial information. But In terms of the budgets, your personnel is fixed, pretty much. Your, heat, light, power, your insurance, most of those things are you can do a pretty good trajectory. It's only if you're planning to do something extraordinary that that there's a major break in the trend of the funding. So a budget is a movable object, movable target, but I don't think that we should say, oh my God, December 15th is too early. No, it's just about right, because we need to then take the scissors, the glue, the aspirin, and get together as a town and talk about what the priorities are and what the funding's going to be.
Yes.
Could have laughed out at you.
I just want to mention that the groundwork was done when the school committee and the Board of Selectmen met. You came up with an agreement, basically how to split what you had at the time and how to split in the future. Now, I don't know if that's an ongoing thing, but I mean, you've come up with something that allows you to meet the December 15th deadline, because obviously we're just now getting the final budget from the state. I believe it was 2 weeks ago.
That's still not the final.
Okay, well, close enough. But at some point in time, that's why you have a fall town meeting. If there are issues, you come back in the fall and you correct them. This is not rocket science, and we don't have to beat it like a rug. You follow what it's laid out in the charter and in the bylaws. It gives you the timing. If we meet those deadlines, it makes our job easier. We're more informed. We get the information. We can beat it like a rug, and then we're ready for town meeting. It's as simple as that. But you guys are the gatekeepers. This is the process. I know that the process starts at December 15th, but that warrant closes on a certain date and a certain time, and you guys are the gatekeepers. If you have all the information beforehand, then you're making a good, sound decision. And when it comes to the finance committee, we're in good shape at this point. We not so much that we need the approval. We could start working on it along with you. If you wanted to do the joint meetings and had people come in, we can do that as well. We have a good committee. I just want us to be better prepared, and that's my goal for this year, is get us prepared. And if we meet the deadlines, we follow the charter, we follow the bylaws, then we make it.
What would the two of you see as the next step towards this end?
I'd be very happy if it's the board's wishes to meet with the chair and the chair of the finance committee and sit down. Maybe we could, iron out some wrinkles and smooth them out, smooth the way a little bit, so that we do what needs to get done in a timely manner. And as I said, I think if you prepare for town meeting in a better manner, town meeting runs better and smoother.
And we've already laid out our calendars. I mean, we're ready to go with calendars. We know that you supposedly started the process the day after, but when we start the 24th of this month meeting and dealing with issues, and we needed a calendar laid out because we know fall town meeting's coming. We also know we have to start the preparation for spring, the annual town meeting. So we're already laying out our schedules.
Okay. Well, I guess it would make sense for me to meet with the two of you, see where your schedules are, bring that information back to this board, use that to formulate our schedule, and so that it runs concurrent with yours, and so that the information is developed and digested ahead of time. Just make life a little easier for everybody, especially the people sitting in the audience. So with that in mind, does anybody else have anything on this, or?
I would just recommend that the town administrator be added to the mix,
Absolutely.
and probably
Oh, yes.
the school superintendent as well when the new person is in place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just would point out that school committee chairman is here, and maybe she ought to be.
She's actually next on the agenda.
I know she's next on the agenda, but it's talking about next year's budget.
Oh, okay. So, Mrs. Bugan, yes, you're out there. Come on up.
Handing over the microphone.
Oh, God. I don't know if you want to do that. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Just following up, it seems we have sort of an initial agreement for who's going to meet going forward to talk about fall town meeting. And then also we need to continue the whole budget process as we discussed previously when we were hashing out this year's budget.
Right.
So with that in mind, I guess what we're looking at is meeting fairly soon, town moderator, chairman of the finance committee, myself, Mr. Sullivan, and you to talk about anything for the fall town meeting budget, but also I think we need to keep an eye towards the spring as well, and also develop a set of concrete dates for deadlines for the budget submittals, so that by mid-September, when the charter says Mr. Sullivan's supposed to be able to tell us what's going on, he's in a better position too to be able to do that, to provide us with the initial information and to get the FinCom off on the right foot so that they're not getting stuff at the last minute, and to make the moderator's life easier, and frankly the town meeting body as well, because ultimately the better we do, the easier it is for them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's all about being educated, and I think that we learned that going through this last process. I mean, it's being educated on what we faced this past year, which we all agreed not only when we met, but also on town meeting floor, that the budget cuts this year were devastating. But also, it wasn't that we were going into it and all of a sudden got surprised at the end. We knew that it was coming, but we started too late when it came to talking about where the cuts were actually going to come from. And I think that we could start doing that right now. We know that next year is not going to be pretty. And so starting now and talking about where some savings can happen and a true collaboration is what I'm looking for. We have a change within the school system when it comes to the leadership there. I do want to say that I want to wish Dr. Rabinovich the best. He is still superintendent of our schools for this month. His last day will be July 31st. What I would like to ask also is that that we be put on the first agenda in August, if possible, so then I'm able to properly introduce Kimberly Shaver-Hood, who is the new incoming superintendent. She's already been in the district 3 or 4 times meeting with district leadership because of the change. Has already met with our new business manager. Hopefully, Mr. Sullivan, you've had a chance to meet with him. Not yet?
I have not.
Okay, all right, so we'll make sure that that happens also. He's starting August 1st also. But again, this is a way that I want to make sure that we're letting everything of the past go and say to ourselves, we have an amazing opportunity to start working together, to start looking at ways that we can collaborate when it comes to expenses, when we can look at some hard choices that need to be made, but setting the right priorities for this town. And I was elected to fight for the schools, and I will fight for the schools, but I do think that it's a main priority in our community because it touches every single individual in this community, even though they might not have children in the schools, it does. And I do think that it is a great chance for us to allow anybody to come in and take a look and have input into what we're trying to do with the schools. So I appreciate you inviting me here tonight, and I hope that that continues.
Okay, it will continue. We got it done this spring. It wasn't the prettiest of processes, and it wasn't certainly the prettiest genesis of the whole thing happening. But the fact of the matter is that the boards at issue did sit down, hash things out, and come up with a budget that everybody, again, wasn't thrilled with, but were able to support. And I think that made it a lot easier for the voters to deal with a town meeting, to at least see that the boards were unified behind the budget. As much as you might have individuals might not like this, that, or the other thing, the end result was, I think, what was necessary. And going forward, if we do start that process now, it'll make it a lot easier next April.
And just I'm sorry, just one other thing that I just wanted to say about that. What we did at our last meeting was we basically negotiated a number, and it was really our town leaders that did that. So Mr. Sullivan and Dr. Rubenovich got together and really made a recommendation of, all right, the number is going to stink either way, but what is that percentage? What is the fairest way to do it? And let's just make those cuts and go forward. What we didn't get to do at that meeting whatsoever is talk about things collectively we can do from a FinCom's perspective, from a community perspective, from Board of Selectmen, and also from a school, to talk about new revenue coming into town, to talk about some changes that we can make that has future cost savings, all of those things, and then setting those kind of priorities. And I think we talked a little bit about this, that if we're going to do these meetings, I want them to be meaningful, meaning that we have a clear goal, a clear objective, and that we have action points as we go out of it. So if we can make sure that there is an agenda that talks about some of the ideas that's come from the Board of Selectmen, from the schools, from even different blogs and community members, and start talking about those as an action steps of what we can each do to see if some of those can be fleshed out. That's what I hope that we start talking about it in these meetings instead of just equal splits and those. So thanks again.
Just real quick before, just one thing. I want to go back. I think what we've done is we've gone from item F to item H, unfortunately. We need to clear up first the town meeting procedures and pieces. I believe everybody agreed that what the committee is going to be, if we're going to call a committee, basically a workshop group, and we're all finished with that. Is that agreed to?
Yeah.
Selectman Homestead was looking to comment on the town meeting process before.
Yeah, I had my finger up for that. And the other person I think that was meaningful in that workshop is Mr. Bowen, in town council, because he also has to have time to review all of the articles as well. So I think that Rich's input into that group is important. Some of the comments I'm not following for some reason, but one of the things that I have disliked about town meeting is the fact that the Board of Selectmen have been put up on some kind of stage, and we don't belong there. The Board of Selectmen, in my opinion, and by charter, really, at town meeting during that session, have no role to play. The Finance Committee is the presenter. Our legal counsel is there. We have our town administrator there, who, if he can't answer a question, it don't belong there. You don't need 5 people sitting there who have no role to play answering questions or confusing. If I get up to speak on a particular issue, I've gone down to the well to speak in the past, and people wonder, why does he do that? Well, because I'm a citizen, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a voter in Wareham, and I have a right to speak. Although I may vote here in affirmative, I may be totally against it. But my role here as a selectman is to vote the way I think it benefits people. Now, I may be totally opposed to something, but I vote yes here because it works out better for the citizens. So I don't know why we got stuck up there. I think that that's an awful decision, and I won't be sitting there in the future because I don't agree with it. And we shouldn't be standing there. Alan gets up, Mrs. Whiteside gets up, Patrick gets up, and basically we are discussing an issue. We're not even in session when we're there. I understand there are certain allowances for public meetings, but the Board of Selectmen doesn't belong on there. If Mr. Sullivan has an issue with a question, he has town department heads there who can answer questions. And I think that's, there are people there who know the answer, unlike the moderator claiming that nobody did their homework. There are people there who know the answer. It's just that we don't often get to those people because one of the five of us get up and give an answer. So I don't agree with that point, but I think that if the Board of Selectmen weren't sitting on that stage, it would alleviate a lot of the confusion at town meeting. So I want you to bring forward that comment about the Board of Selectmen, if you would, to your workshop, and I would ask that you include Mr. Bowen.
No,
Okay?
certainly. Thank you. Selectman Whiteside?
There's some things I think that we need to start working on as a town, like right now. There are ways to save money that include consolidation, that include elimination of duplicate job, duplicate functions, and creating a head of a department that serves the town, whether it be the school or the town. We all are on the same tax bill. We've been through this before, but one of the things that I personally think we need to look at is the savings that can be had by. It's interesting that you have a new business manager. That's great. We should have a town-wide purchasing agent. We shouldn't have one for this half and one for that half. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So there are a lot of sort of issues that I would like to talk about before we even get to the numbers. I think they're more conceptual ideas before we get to the numbers, Mr. Titlebaum. With the three boards when we start meeting. You weren't
Well,
paying attention.
This goes back.
Making a note to myself
Yeah.
to bring up some of the points Mr. Holmes was raising.
This goes back to item H, which really what we're at is the next piece. Item H was discussion with the FinCom and the school committee on the budget for 2014, which is still in process, and 2015.
Which I guess we kind of got to jump on
And we
that
kind
too.
of jumped ahead and didn't finish one with the other. I apologize. I should have stopped and said we need to hold for a minute.
That's fine. I got out of here earlier.
We finished F. F is finished. We have the makeup of the group, and we have a charge, including Selectman Holmes' addition. He would like to take as a separate issue that the group discusses as well.
So the chair will get back to us and we'll
Yeah.
set up a workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've got a consensus on what we'll all do going forward for that, as well as I think we've had quite a bit of discussion on the going forward budgetary process. I guess the issue there is just setting up the just scheduling matters.
Schedule, and also what kind of how you want to do it as far as numbers, whether it's full boards meeting like we did last time through, or whether we're going to have full boards of each one meeting altogether, or it's going to be one or two or whatever. Yeah, because this was, remember, we made an agreement that on June 19th, I remember very clearly, that we would start working on finishing up 2014 and 2015, which is what Mrs. Whiteside's talking about for issues, as well as what Rhonda explained as well. We're a couple weeks late getting started, but we're going to get started.
While we weren't really part of that joint meeting discussion we did attend, we don't have a problem being part of it, but I think you put too many people around the table, you're going to cause more confusion. So let me visit that with the committee on the 24th. The other thing I was going to mention, as far as have a person that had a warrant article or whatever came up and you wanted to meet jointly, I'm not sure that's either a good or a bad idea, because your kind of questions that you would ask somebody they differ greatly than some of the questions we would ask them as a finance committee. And now you've taken a person from a 20-minute discussion into a 45-minute discussion. So I don't know. We'll have to visit that in our other meeting.
It's possible that you're right about that you're forcing somebody to wear two hats on one night, and I understand that.
Right.
The flip side is you're only tying them up for one night to talk about the warrant article. So
that's why I said
think
I'm
that's
not
where-
sure.
Yeah.
So at this
Exactly.
point, if you want the finance committee to be part of the joint, talking about more the intricacies of the budget as opposed to just the overall process of this, then I'll bring that back to the committee on the 24th and see how they feel about it.
I mean, speaking for myself, I think that would be helpful, especially if we're going to be doing some of the things that Mrs. Vugan referenced and that we had talked about before, which is trying to look for mutual efficiencies and things we can share, ways to jointly reduce costs. I don't think there's ever too many people in the room to talk about that sort of thing.
Not saying that. It's just whether we want to tie up the whole committee,
Yeah.
or do we want to send a couple representatives. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that, we're going to be, once the budget process starts, or once the town meeting process, we get tied up, and sometimes we meet more than once a week, and unlike, never mind. My point being is that
I know where you were
I
going.
don't want to really tie up the whole group if they're not interested in being tied up, and I hope they are, but I can't say they are. But some of us will be there no matter what. That's just what our role is. But we'll just, I want to make sure.
Okay. Mrs. Vugan, do you have anything to?
Sure, we're
To
on
add?
the agenda item now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're continuing the agenda item.
Yeah. I think I'd like to understand, so first of all, when it comes to the meeting date, I know that it would be, you have to have our town leaders there. So again, having Derek there, Mr. Sullivan there, as well as Ms. Shaver Hood. And she's starting not until August 1st.
Right.
And so I'd like to wait just until she begins. It doesn't mean that we can't talk beforehand. I think it would be helpful if either the chairs or whoever you designate, for us to at least talk about what the agenda looks like and the general framework of what that meeting is. Because I know that if we just all meet and say we're going to talk about the budget, right, every single person is going to have a different thought of what that actually means. So if we could at least put together a preliminary agenda that can be sent out to each one of the boards to discuss and make comment on, I think that would be a great first step that we can do even before the August timeline.
I think
Any
that's
thoughts about that? Or?
I think it's a great way to do it. Basically, we're all looking at things from different directions, with the end result being what's best for the town. So
Right.
if we don't have an agenda, we're not going to get anywhere, because we're going to be going in circles.
Right. So the suggestion is if the chairs of each one of the three boards, in consultation with our town leaders, which I can do, and I'm sure that Mr. Chadwell, you can do, because again, it's also what's most helpful to them. They're the ones that are going to have to manage this process going forward. So what would be helpful for them? I'm sure that Mr. Sullivan and I'm sure Ms. Shaver Hood already has a priority list a mile long of things that if they had multiple consultants, what they would actually go and explore. Well, yes, we're an elected body, volunteer body, but we do have the opportunity to do some of those things for our leaders. So can we start off with a conversation with the three chairs of the board and just hammer that out? And again,
Yeah.
I'll talk to Ms. Shaver Hood, you talk to Mr. Sullivan, and then hopefully we can have that. We're meeting on the 29th. We're going to do a workshop on the 29th. And so I could actually bring it to that meeting, and then you can bring it at your next meeting and your next meeting. So the 24th? Okay. So even if it's just a phone call, we can get on a conference call.
Yep.
So I can reach out and send an email to you both so that we can find a time that works for everyone.
Yep.
And then we can bring that back.
Okay.
Awesome.
Selectman Holmes?
Yeah, I think that I agree with Mrs. Whiteside, and in the past year and a half, it seems every time I've discussed some kind of consolidation, I was always told, you're too late, you're too late, you're too late. We're not doing that. Thus, the accounting director, Mr. Sullivan, redesigned the department. The school just went out and hired a business manager, and we were trying to get a CFO type person who would oversee the entire process. Didn't happen. And I believe that he's not here. I wish he was for this discussion. I think that every dollar that is in Mr. Sullivan's budget heading anywhere is going to be scrutinized quite a bit over the next few months. And anywhere in there where there's a duplication of services, I have a list, And I think Mrs. Whiteside talked about buying. There are cleaners, drivers, plowers. I mean, there's a whole list of things. Billing, any kind of clerical work that, you know, there's going to be an opportunity. There is an opportunity to consolidate. And I would hope that all parties, whether it's in a small meeting or a joint meeting or a big meeting, you will accept those opportunities, or the money's not going to be there. And I think that that's good to be on the agenda for your discussion, to let all the boards know that, you know, we're not going to spend money here and spend money there anymore. That has to stop. And so I think it's kind of right side. It has nothing to do with educating children. It's got to do with operations more. And we need to consolidate those things. And I don't want to be told again that, oh, I'm too late to offer that suggestion, and we keep spending money that we don't have to spend. So I think that that sounds like, I see my colleagues shaking their head. I think that needs to be at the top of your list. Before you even start talking about numbers, we need to talk about what that looks like for the town.
I
So,
think you'll see a commitment from all three chairmen to look for efficiencies, because that's in all of our interests. It's in the taxpayers' interests. It's in the town employees' interests. It's in our educators' interests, because the more money we can stop wasting on duplicative services, the more money we have to do our core functions. So that will certainly be part of the process. Selectman Whiteside?
I just want to say that congratulations to all of us. We were able to put the swords and shields down, figure out that we were all in the same boat, that it was sinking good and fast, and that if we rowed together, we might make it to the other side of the river before we drowned. So I think it's major that these boards and commissions are going to be meeting virtually immediately and regularly for the benefit of the townspeople. I think that's what really needs to come out of this meeting. I think that the public needs to understand that this is the first time in my memory that this really has happened, and I want to say thank you.
Yes, likewise. Mr. Sullivan, you've been quiet over there.
From my end, one of the biggest things about the December 15th budget, as I've seen the last few years, is that it's not a true budget. We are forced by charter to do a balanced budget. However, we have our own charter that conflicts with itself. There's a December 15th deadline, and then it says in the article summary for the amendments, the school committee is directed to hold a public hearing on a proposed budget before it takes a final vote on the proposed budget. It is expected the committee will hold its hearing in mid-January and will take its final vote on the proposed budget before the end of the month.
Makes complete sense.
How do we have a true balanced budget when we don't even really know what the key cog is for our whole budget lines?
It sounds like you've just written a charter change warrant article for fall town meeting.
Why we work together from this going forward in this process. So we.
Larry, you need to use the mic.
Sorry. I always thought it was loud enough I didn't need a mic. That's why we have to clean up the process. We have to work together. No more surprises. No more, games of chicken, I guess somebody called it. I don't know. But we need to work together and know what's coming down the pike. It's just easier that way for everybody. I understand what you're saying, and there are some issues in the budget or in the charter and the bylaws that may or may not need to be changed. But the general principle is that we work together so that we don't hit the snags along the way.
I think that's perfect, and I'm sorry to interrupt. And that's what I'm saying. If we wait and we just follow all these procedures, I think that's been one of the major flaws, because at the end of the day, what I've seen has happened is the town side budget gets worked on, and then we have whatever revenue's left, and you say, okay, well, that's what we split with or put to the school. That's an artificial budget. So if we're working together ahead of time, we have a true idea of what both sides, what their costs are. and we have a real December 15th budget. It's something we can work forward on. So, and that's nothing against the school on there. It's by the charter and what's been happening. So,
Right.
thank you.
But I think that it's an important thing that you brought up because, what we don't understand is how one thing's affecting the other.
Yeah.
And I think that does go back to communication. And I am a huge fan of the Love Fest and that Kumbaya and we all work together and stuff. But what I'm really looking forward to, seriously, is being able to get in a room and have a true, respectful debate on some of the hardest issues that are facing our town right now. And that's what I just haven't seen yet. Like actually getting in a room and saying, I disagree with your perspective, but I respect that you're saying it. So now let me bring mine and then come to a true, as close as we can, consensus of what's in the best interest of the town. We are going to have differences and we also have different priorities. I will always fight for the schools, but I also do understand from the perspective from the FinCom and also from the Board of Selectmen that you're fighting for a whole other set of priorities that includes the school, but you also have to look at the town as a whole. But that is what I'm looking forward to, is when we get into a room, not afraid to basically say, I disagree, but I'm okay with that. How can we get what's right for the town? So again, I just didn't want to leave with the kumbaya and we're all going to walk out of here and all of a sudden this huge pool of money is going to come in and we're all going to be heroes. No, it's the hard work is just beginning, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I know that the members that I've spoke to on my board are looking for the exact same thing. So,
Okay. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. If you want to go ahead and send out that first email,
I will.
then we can get together, try to come up with a mutually accommodating date, and go forward from there and talk about the process and what sorts of things we want to look for on the agenda, and how we're going to schedule matters. So
Okay.
I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.
And also thank you, Mrs. Smith, for coming in as well. I know she's back there still.
Thank you all. What do you want to do next? Could we have the Mascot Kayak Center people up, please?
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, thanks. And you?
Very good, thanks. Last time I was here, it was colder, and I was presenting my proposal to you folks, and we're here on a different note today. We just wanted to thank the town of Wareham officials and all their departmental employees for, giving us such a warm welcome into this town. It's been really an easy transition for us to be down at 184 Onset Ave on Onset Beach, and we couldn't be happier to be there. And we want to let all of you know that personally. We also want to send out a special recognition to Gary Buckminster, the harbor master, for really setting us up with all the rules, the expectation of the waterways, but also for being so helpful to us to make this transition so much easier. It's really been great. And the local people seem to be so ecstatic that we've reactivated the snack bar and bathhouse with the rental of kayaks and stand-up paddle boards, and some of the people we've met. It's just been a wonderful thing for us, and we're very happy about it. And we want to thank you. I would also like to, at this time, introduce you to the reason why I'm here, to introduce you to Tom Quigley, my manager of Nemasket Kayak at Onset Beach.
Thank you for having us. A couple of interesting perspectives here. I'll just tag team with Roy, the owner and operator of Nemasket Kayak, that the reception's been incredible. I was the one that had to take a sheet of paper. All right, for an occupancy permit, I had to go to a dozen departments, into a person, the warm welcome. They were very informative. They were very encouraging to us, wanting us to succeed in any which way. A lot of the locals have walked up and also given us encouragement. suggestions, advice, reminiscing. We've had people that used to work in that concession stand and in the bathhouse actually want to come into the building to flash back on what it was like when they were a teenager and they were schlepping French fries out the windows and what have you. Some people, it's actually brought them to tears. Local residents have been very encouraging and very supportive. But one of the other things I want to also get back to the board, your biggest problem is money. And we understand that. We've been sitting here, we've been listening to all this. And I will tell you that there is a certain vibe in that village that we are really impressed with. We drive through it every day. We see all the renovations that you've made. We see some of the new business in town. On a daily basis, we get asked 3 major questions. Where are the bathrooms? What do I do with the trash? But the most important ones, and this gets back to the revenue, is they want to know where to go and what to do. And we enjoy the fact that we can turn it back to you, back to the town, all right, to Onset, to Wareham, and tell these people, these are the restaurants. There's where you can go buy that. And we've made these connections, whether it's with the market, whether it's with Ace Hardware, whether it's with Bananas, and many, many others. I could go through all the restaurants. We have their brochures. We have their pamphlets. And we just thoroughly enjoy the fact, okay, that we are helping you, all right, to draw in some revenue. And we thank you for that.
Comments from the board?
One of my friends went and learned how to kayak with you, and she said she had more fun than a barrel of monkeys. She's 45 years old, and she said she fell out twice, but got back in and just thought it was the best thing that could have happened. That that this attraction is there for
We
us.
hope you all come down and enjoy the festivities down there. Get up on a stand-up paddleboard and
In
see
fact,
how you do.
we try to donate some time, and we do understand the conflict of interest. I'm an educator, and I understand even getting Christmas gifts, you had to worry about the amount of money that you were getting. But yeah, it's just been a wonderful experience being able to work with all of you in such a great place, of which Roy, by the way, I've been down to Onset my whole life. I'm actually moving down into this area, and the first place I went to was I went to a restaurant after I parked on the pier. I looked down off the pier. I hadn't put in an application with him. I said, to my wife, that would be a great place to have like kayaks, stand-up boards, and how ironic. That's exactly what happened. Our very first customers, and this gets back to what you're saying, is our first 2 customers were from southeastern Mass, and they were 2 young women, and they walked across the pier, and they said, it'd be great if they had some activity in the old concession, the old boathouse, and we had something to do. And they even mentioned kayaking. And when they came over the rise and they looked down, they saw there were the kayaks. And in fact, the woman behind me, she wrote an article. She took the camera shot. All right, it was in the newspaper. I took the same shot, and we mounted it up on the board. And by the way, feel free to come down. I know we can't give you a freebie. We can't give you a discount, but we will give you a free instruction, and we will take photographs for you. We know you have a lot on your agenda, so but we thank you.
Thank you. Selectman Holmes, I know you.
Yeah, I just want to say that I noticed sitting behind you is the Hall of Fame kayaker
Of all time.
Mr. Richard Wheeler.
Richard is here.
Wheeler. And by
it's
the way,
like-
we've spoken to Mr. Wheeler about his Bird Island, extravaganza, the 3, 6, and 13-mile treks, and absolutely legendary. The stories that man has told about going from Nova Scotia and paddling all the way down, all right, around the Horn of the Cape and anywhere and everywhere. It's just, I don't know if you've written a book, but you need to, or somebody needs to read a book about you. We use him as a free consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
He was
just
on
going to
Time
say,
Magazine
the
cover.
point of the matter was, as long as Richard is smiling, you guys are all set.
Yeah,
Okay.
we know that. All right, we know where the royalty is. We found the royalty in town.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Selectman Slavin?
Simple. I'm glad to see you guys here. It'll help the town, help
Thank you.
yourselves.
Well, that's our
I will
plan.
not be using your kayak service because I specialize in the 180,
Okay.
not the 360.
Okay, I hear you.
You know, that there are some people who may pay for the privilege of doing that to you. But I was especially heartened to hear the fact that there's sort of cross-pollination going on between you and the other businesses. I think the cooperation is the key to marketing our town.
Yes.
I don't know if you've had an occasion to talk with our CETA director, Sal Pina, or if you've been able to get your flyers out at the 195 Information Center.
We have not.
That may be another avenue for you folks to explore. The gentleman who runs that is very savvy. He talks to hundreds and hundreds of tourists every single day, and that would be a great place to snag people before they decide to go over the bridge.
Okay, I'll make it a point to speak to him.
Okay.
Thank you. I know him. I've met him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
we know Salpina, too.
That's right.
Yeah. Again, well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming forward. Good luck, Tom, and
And Roy?
we look forward to seeing Onset Bay festooned with kayaks.
Thank you very
Great.
much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Next up, we'll have the Onset Business Networking Group and Onset Bay Association. Hello, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Eleanor Martin, Onset Bay Association.
Deb Alfonso, business owner, Onset Bay Trading Company.
Okay.
We all know who he is.
We don't have to. Yeah, don't have to introduce him. He's a legend.
I have some pamphlets I'm going to pass out. Yep. And I'll start reading it.
Thank you.
We, the residents, small business owners, Onset Bay Association members, are here tonight to discuss the ongoing problem with trash disposal in the village of Onset. While we understand the reasoning that was behind the removal of the trash containers in Onset, we want to present to the Selectmen and the town the reasons that this is not working as planned. Visitors to Onset and to Onset Beach were not made aware that the bring-in takeout system was in place in advance of the system being put into action. No signage was placed advising of this new procedure. This resulted in law-abiding people not knowing what to do with the trash they accumulated while visiting the village. Some just left it by the side of the area they were in, while others looked for a container. In addition, trash is being placed in privately owned dumpsters on a regular basis. We have witnessed visitors looking for a place to deposit their bags of trash that they want to get rid of. Much of the refuge has been left on the grassy area and the bushes surrounding Onset Beach. Private citizens have been forced to take action to prevent blight and can be seen daily going around with trash bags doing pickup. One of the daily trash up people is Richard Wheeler, 82-year-old resident. Mr. Wheeler estimates he picks up a minimum of 3 to 5 trash bags daily, and he is only one of the many that do this on a daily basis. They have voiced that they feel that they should not have to do this, as this is town property, and that they are tired of this task. But we do have some proposed solutions. Bring back the trash barrels. Number 1, put trash containers on the beach in areas surrounding the beach area that will be large enough to hold a day's worth of trash, similar to those placed at Little Harbor Beach. Business owners forming a coalition and using private funds together with tax dollars set aside for cleanup in Onset. And as you'll see, I took some pictures of trash that was left laying all around, and it was pretty bad. And I do realize that this was the busiest weekend of the year, and there was an extra amount of trash. But there were pictures taken on a regular basis, we just don't have them, of the same problem, trash being left in the area. And yes, this was an extra large amount for the 4th of July, but the 4th of July didn't sneak up on us. We knew it was coming, and we knew it was going to be the largest weekend of the season for Onset Beach, because we have the most spectacular fireworks in the county, and we should have been prepared with more trash barrels than we had. It was disgusting. The next thing that I have was an email that another resident of Onset, Laurie Chandler Benson, had sent into the town administrator, and she went on at length about her problems with the trash and some of the things that she thinks should be done, and I'm not going to read that. You have it there if you want to look at it. And then I just have some pictures of the trash barrels that I think would really be nice on the beach, just like the ones we have at Little Harbor. So I'm going to let Debbie take.
Well, part of the problem is, and being a business owner and being there all day long, is when people go to the beach, and if they come from a surrounding community such as Brockton or Taunton, and they come with their 5 kids, and they come with their beach toys, it's hard enough to get that off the beach, never mind the trash. So the pizza boxes or the empty drink containers or the baby's dirty diaper stays on our beach. So now it becomes much more than just, it actually becomes a health issue. We have seagulls coming in, and if it wasn't for our residents that care about our beach having to go down there and pick up trash, it would be far worse than what it is. And there's going to come a point where the people just aren't going to want to do it anymore. It's exhausting work, as some of these people that are sitting here tonight will testify to. So we do need to find, it's a very small season. It's not an all year round thing. When I was a kid growing up in this town, there were kids that were hired by the maintenance department to pick up trash on the beach and to clean it, rake seaweed, but it was a summer job. And it was much better than flipping hamburgers. A lot of people wanted to do that job. So maybe that could be something but we need to take some type of action now, because it's already July 9th and the trash is still going to be there, and it's going to turn off people that have come to our beach because it is such a clean beach. When they come and they see trash all over the place, and they're not going to want to come back. And as a business, that's not what I want to see. There are dumpsters that are located over by Shell Point, but now we have to take into consideration that people that don't have trash pickup at their house are taking their bags down there, and now they're throwing those in the dumpsters. And people have seen that happening as well. So these are just things that need to be addressed immediately, because again, we're already at July 9th. The time goes fast.
Well,
Richard, did you want to say something?
Sure.
Okay.
I know Mr. Sullivan, I believe, wants to talk about the July 4th weekend.
I appreciate the comments, and my first question is about this weekend. Is this one of the worst you've seen for trash in the last few years?
No.
'Cause one of the things is we trucked in 25 extra barrels for the July 4th weekend. We brought in more barrels, and we had a bigger trash issue than when we didn't have the barrels. The barrels are not working. And I understand this policy's only been a few weeks. Only a few weeks. And what I'm hearing is that the people that go to the beaches are not the type of people that will throw out trash. And I just can't believe that. I can't believe saying that our own residents and our visitors are the type of people that just won't do it. Now, I understand with the signs. You are absolutely right about the signs. We have them ordered. They should have been up. I would ask that all the business owners alert people when they're purchasing things. I spoke to one of the Salernos. They said that when they're selling their pizzas, they're letting people know that's carry in, carry out trash. And they're saying that bring the box back, they'll throw it in the dumpster. One of the key things that was said, people are bringing their household trash down to the dumpsters. They were doing it to the barrels. So instead of going to the barrels, they're going to the dumpsters. We should not be trucking people's household garbage away. People have to pay for dump and beach stickers. Why should other people have to be able to just throw theirs away in barrels? I think if we all work together on this, we have the signage. We've put it out in the paper, but those people, if you rent your home, please let the people know. If you're a business owner, please let the people know. I received an email from a gentleman, and he was absolutely right. And I haven't gotten back to him. This is not a bad thing for the town. This is a good thing. We're going to work together to make this a cleaner community, to prove that Wareham is a good community. And that's what I believe in this.
Well, that's all well and true. And I think moving forward, maybe that could work next year. But for this year, you really need to do something to bring those trash barrels back because people don't know. And it's not effective enough to tell people in the stores. I mean, you see in the pictures, there were people who wanted to find a place. They had all their trash, they had put it in a bag. Now they didn't know that they were supposed to take it home. And go ahead, Richard.
Selectman Whiteside?
I would. I've been watching this for 2 or 3 years, and you're right about the barrels. They're not big enough for the job, and they overflow, and it creates another problem. I have noticed that since you put in the large trash container at the end of the road, down at the end of Onset Point, at the parking place, that place is a lot cleaner now. And there is the problem of people putting household trash in it, but it's big enough, and I think if you stay after it, on a daily basis, or maybe install a TV camera down there, but any trash barrel at the foot of any one of those stairways would very soon fill to overflowing and create another unsightly problem. It's a huge amount of trash. There really is. I have a lot of faith in people wanting to do the right thing. I really do. There are some slobs. I mean, over this last weekend, we had as many as 20 or 30 bottles and cans in one party place. So those are not the people we want to have set the standard. And I think one of the possible solutions could be in working with that wonderful little beach jeep that we have. And they try, but you can't use, that just goes in a straight line, and unless you stop and get out and walk around, you're not going to be able to do the job that needs to be done. But that trash collector, that little Jeep, in conjunction with 2 or 3 young people trying to get in condition in the summertime, running along and zigzagging along the beach, would clear that beach up in a half an hour. There's another factor too that I've seen as a veteran of beach cleaning, is that a lot of the trash comes very innocently from people in the afternoon when the southwest winds come up and they're organizing their gear, things blow away, and you can't blame them for running. You can look foolish chasing after a rolling pizza plate. So there's a lot of it that gets up into the grass, and there's no way to do that other than getting out there and picking it up by hand. So I'll be glad to work with you, and there will be others who will be glad to work with you. I think it's a solvable problem. I really do. I would like to think that if you went with a good-natured but determined way, the people who drive that Jeep could get out there earlier in the day, maybe stop with people and say, you got a nice party going here, do you have enough trash bags? Would you like to dump anything right now? They could do that and educate people and not go at it in a punitive way, but just in effect say, this is going to be a clean beach and we're counting on you to help it, and it has to be that way. But go back to the barrels. The barrels won't, unless you have 2 or 3 barrels, that's not enough. It's a huge quantity of stuff.
This isn't, well, Mrs. Whiteside was up next. These folks were actually requested to be put directly upon the agenda through their organizations. If they're with your organization, then they're welcome to come up and speak.
Go ahead.
Yes, please. Otherwise, you won't go out to the TV folks.
I'm loud enough that you don't need.
Not in the room, but out in TV land, they might want to hear you too.
My name is Paul LeBoulier. I live Ocean Avenue, Onset, Mass. I've lived there all my life. My wife walks 5 miles a day. She cleans 2 of the 3 main roads coming into Onset and along the beaches. Not on the beach. Mr. Whiteside does a great job on the beach. She's up on the sidewalk cleaning. And if there are no barrels, she cannot do it. I mean, she fills her bag up in a short period of time, and what she has in the past done is to empty into the barrels as she goes. I'm a strong believer in lead by example. The broken window effect, if the town's clean, people aren't going to throw as much trash. I think we should encourage the businesses, we should encourage town people to clean their properties and in front of their properties. The businesses should clean in front of their properties. I would like the town to help us out by leaving trash cans. We've been fighting about this trash can situation now for 3 years. First they had trash cans with no covers. The good people in the town would put the trash in the trash can and the seagulls would say, "See you later," and remove it. Then my wife would get up in the morning and spend 15 minutes around each one of the trash cans, putting it back in. So I would like to see trash cans, maybe larger trash cans with covers, so the seagulls wouldn't go in. This would help the people that come to visit, would help the people who live in the town. I think the young lady who I took her seat away, you know, she had a good suggestion about let's help the maintenance department. Give them each. When I was young, I worked in the maintenance department. I worked with one of the gentlemen. I worked here at the high school. I would put on the sprinklers, I'd cut the grass, I'd prepare the baseball field. You know, these were the things I did. If there was one person with each one of those gentlemen, because there's 5, I think there's 5, is there 5, is that correct? Working in the maintenance department? For this whole town, 5 or 6?
There's 4 foremen, and then I believe if you're not including the guys inside the building, I think you've only got about 7 workers.
7 workers to do the whole town.
Yeah.
It's not enough. The past town administrator, I had talked to him about putting kids on. They could go to the school, find out who are the good kids that would probably put in a good day's work. You pay them minimum wage, there's no benefit, and they would help out. They would help do a lot of work. That's my feeling on that. So maybe we could help him by that. There was also a suggestion that, you know, the barrels would get overflowed. If they're bigger, maybe that wouldn't happen. Maybe more than one pickup in a day in the bad areas. You know, empty the barrel more than once. These are just suggestions I'm trying to throw out. That would be helpful. But I really do think the people, you know, they're saying here that the townspeople are tired. Yes, we get frustrated. We complain. But my wife's going to go out there every day no matter what. And she's going to help clean, and so on, a lot of other people. I'm going to brag about my wife because she's here, and if I don't, she'll get mad at me. But she has plantings at the onset sign coming in by the Ocean Spray Cranberry plant where the railroad track is. She's planted at Standpipe Hill. She's maintained a walkway down to the beach in front of our house in the Inn on Onset Bay, and planted 2 barrels of flowers. Now the town's going to arrest us because we're doing things on town property. But we maintain those stairs, we sweep them, we clean them, we trim back the area around those stairs and put flowers. Now she wants to do more, and I'm tired. Thank God we've had a lot of rain, haven't had to go out and water as much. But I'd like the town to help out the residents that are doing this work by providing barrels. I'd like the town to help the maintenance department by maybe giving him, maybe it won't happen this year because I know money and budgets, but maybe next year think about putting a crew of 1 kid per guy. Maybe multiple pickup of rubbish, that would be another thing. So I can't keep on talking, I'm going to quit. Thank you for listening to me.
Well, thank you for speaking. And I've been around long enough that when I was a kid, a bunch of my friends were on the beach crew.
Yep.
And I can
Well,
remember
used to
that.
pick up seaweed, too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And that was backbreaking work. They pitchforked it, they raked it and pitchforked it.
Yep.
And there was no machine, there was nothing, it was just a truck and it was a flatbed truck with sides.
Right.
And they scooped it up. It was like looking at an agricultural operation on the beach in the mornings. So, of course, in those days, too, we had lifeguards, we had town-sponsored swimming lessons, and a lot of things that unfortunately we can't provide these days. So that's the problem.
If to interrupt
the
you, I just
administration
don't think it's that much money for the 10 weeks of the summer for 7 kids at minimum wage, you know. So that's just something to think about that I offer out that I think would help a lot, because you're asking 7 guys to keep the town clean, and in the summer, the population grows by
twice as much. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's people who don't live there that are, you know, throw a can or, you know, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your thoughts. Selectman Whiteside?
Yes, thank you. I very much appreciate citizens coming forward and telling us what isn't working. And it's really nice to see Boo Boo. Hey, how are you? One of the things that I think I would notice or make notice of is that many of the blogs, which are about the trash, are saying it's really a training of the public. If there were no barrels at all, on the beaches, you have a choice as a human being. You can be an absolute pig and leave everything on the beach, or you can figure out that what you brought in, you brought out. The front seat of my car has water bottles, it has coffee cups, and once a week I clean the front seat of my car out. I don't throw things out the window, and I wouldn't dream of going to the beach and leaving my kids' dirty diapers or anything there. I've had conversations with 3 people. 2 of them were at Little Harbor, which is, of course, a town resident beach. And what I would call peer pressure is working at that beach. People are saying, is that your sandwich bag? Well, shouldn't you be taking it with you? And unless you're totally ignorant in the way that school children use the word ignorant, you're going to react to picking it up. If there are no barrels in evidence, the clue is take your stuff back with you. I agree that these signs should have been up, but we made a fiscally driven decision. It's between $2,000 and $2,500 per weekend to pick up the trash. It is something that we cannot afford to do, and I'll also give you the example of the barrel in front of Salerno's. It used to be there. It was a town barrel, and it was removed. There wasn't any issue. There was issues when the barrel was there because people kept stuffing stuff in it, and then the birds took it out, and then somebody else would try and stuff more in it, and then the wind would blow, or, whatever. If there's no barrel to put stuff in, you can't have a barrel issue.
And they leave it on the beach.
Exactly.
Then I'm sure they do, Mr. Wheeler, and I'm also pretty sure that the people who have spoken here, including the men who were with the kayak place, could say, just say, gee, is that your trash? Pick it up.
In theory, that's a really good thing, but Onset lives on tourists, people that come in to enjoy the beach, to rent the kayaks for the day, to rent a cottage. We can't govern what they do. We want them to enjoy their visit, and we want them to come back, and we want the people around them to come back. So we're not going to be able to be police running up and down saying to everybody. I have said to people, and I have picked up other people's trash. Yes, but you can't be at every given spot and expect tourists that are on vacation that are going to abide by what we want as residents. Yes, Little Harbor is a resident beach, and I feel more inclined that, okay, if you live here, you better darn well pick up your trash. But you can't say that. We're not a camping area in Onset Beach. A lot of campsites, you take in your trash, you take it out. People don't expect that when they come here on vacation.
Because there have been barrels there for so long that we have trained them wrong. And that's what many of the people in town are saying, is that take the barrels away, people will figure it out. It may be a very unpleasant rest of the summer for you, but I see huge marketing potential for Stashes or Salerno's or even the kayak guys. You buy an ice cream bar from me, take my bag and bring your trash back. Take it to your car. I really, with all due respect to you and the concerns that you have, I just don't think
for the people that are buying things in the shops, but the people that come in with their coolers and bring their sandwiches and stuff already prepared, we're not going to give them trash bags.
I'd be happy to spend a day on the beach being what I can be.
Well, so wouldn't I. I spend many days on the beach, and I do try to be what I can be, and I do try to pass along to people to pick up trash. But it's just idealistic to think that it's going to happen overnight.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen overnight. So we're talking about what we need to do for this year, because it is the problem this year, and it's hurting the small business owners in Onset, and that should not happen.
You raise it, you do.
I think the principals ought to have a meeting, and I'd like to talk with you. We haven't conversed. I just came in here blind, but what I can say to Ms. Whiteside is that what you say is wonderful in theory, but it just doesn't work that way. And I think one of the problems is there's been a lack of education. the notice about carry in, carry out never got to the people themselves. It got in the Wareham Week. But the people, all they saw was no trash barrels. And we live right on the beach, so I watched them come out. And some of the people were trying to carry their trash out. But others take advantage of it and just leave incredible amounts of stuff. And the gentleman who talked about his wife, and she is a town hero, I'm telling you, she does an incredible job. She does miles and miles and miles of pickup every single day. But he introduced another problem that is separate from the beach problem. And if you just had the barrels on the sidewalk, you're encouraging people in cars and townspeople to dump it. I acknowledge that fact. You got, for the beach traffic, my assessment is the barrels have to be on the beach. And that would mean the town would have to, or the little Jeep could come and pick up the stuff at the end. But the beach problem is one problem that's separate from picking up the sidewalks along the streets. So you can't solve both trash problems with one set of barrels, is what I'm trying to say.
If I broke it down to its simplest form, one of the questions is the people that are bringing coolers and such are just going to throw their trash on the ground. They're not going to take it with them. I would think the ones, when we go down to the beach, my wife and I, with our daughter, changing diapers, we have bags for it. We bring it back with us. It's normal. It's what you're supposed to do.
Well, that brings up another point. I get 6 to 8 diapers a day. It's my wife's first question when I come in. How many diapers did you get today? And this brings up another possible problem. I think there are some mothers who aren't going to want their young kids picking up some of the stuff that's really quite unsavory on the beach. So we must think about that and not be naive about that. It isn't just Coke bottles down there.
But you bring up a good point. Is one of the things is maybe working with the harbor master, the kayak center, and the businesses is providing bags for.
I would like to do that. We'll get you and Gary and his people, the kayak people. And I'll bet we could come up with a plan.
But meetings is good as well. And I was saying maybe having some bags available for the people if they didn't come in, if they if they purchased something at one of the stores, because it's. When we think about it, it's not the town itself isn't going down there and giving people styrofoam containers and foods. These are coming from.
We've done nothing as a town, and I've done really nothing as an individual to educate people, and I think that's the missing thing. I can imagine T-shirts that people would wear down there, keep Onset Beach clean. I can imagine someone going through with a loudspeaker even, and suggesting at 3:30 or 4, come on guys, let's pick up your trash. If I need a trash bag, I've got one right here. And let's keep this beach clean. And 9 out of 10 people are going to cooperate with you, and we can overpower the others.
And I think that's what education's one of the best parts of it. And I appreciate the work. I believe I've met the gentleman's wife, and she's. I was amazed by it. And there's things that we can do to work with those people as well. If somebody is doing for lack of a better term, civil service or helping out the town, and it's not to gain anything. It's really an amazing thing, and that's not something that I want to squash by any means. So we can try and figure out how to work with that.
Jamie wants to say something, but I just want to say, if I were the people running the town and I was the selectman, the town administrator, and I had to make a choice of which area in my town, and Onset is part of Wareham, am I going to put those real pretty trash barrels? It wouldn't have been Main Street, Wareham. It would have been Onset, where the onslaught of people come for the summer. Yes, there is traffic on Main Street in Wareham, but the most people come for the beaches, and they're in Onset. We should have had some of those barrels.
But I appreciate that point, but that came from community and economic development for the downtown streetscape.
Exactly, but
and we did spend $500,000 on the road leading into Onset through Chapter 90 monies to try and upgrade that. It shouldn't be pit Wareham against Onset.
No, I don't say it
Wareham.
should.
We are the town of Wareham.
But I'm saying, if I had to make an economic decision of, I've got 10 pretty trash barrels, where am I going to put them? Some of them would have gone to Main Street Onset.
Well, just to your point, you couldn't have spent that money on that because that was all federal money that came through the state.
That's not a choice that was made.
Yeah, that was not a choice that was made by this board or even any prior board. That was federal money.
Somebody made the choice.
But not in this town.
You couldn't have done that if you
Yeah,
wanted.
we could not have taken barrels off of
No.
Main Street and put them on set. We would have been in violation
money
of
is
federal law
earmarked
to
for
do
that
that.
project.
Well,
Because it was
I
a
realize-
federally
okay.
administered grant that paid for those barrels. Had nothing to do with
Right.
decisions by
But
administration.
that grant
or-
money is extending into onset. Are we going to get those
No, ma'am.
eventually? No? All right, go ahead.
Mr. Titlebaum, if I may.
Hi.
Yes.
That money is zone targeted in Wareham. There is money that comes on those grants for downtown revitalization, as well as a target zone.
Right.
At some point in the last, I want to say, 2.5 years, that target zone was downtown Wareham extending towards Tremont Nail and back around, I think around I forget the exact map.
Right.
But you have to use that money in that area. You can't take $10,000 and put it in Onset or $10,000 and put it in West Wareham. It must be spent in that target area so that 10 years from now, when the it's actually federal money, when the federal government comes to Wareham and says, okay, what did we spend $10 million on, they have to see something. They're not going to drive to Onset and see a barrel. They're not going to drive to West Wareham and see a fire hydrant. Those are targeted dollars in zones only. You can't take money out of there. So no particular board made that decision. That's the target zone is what it is, and you can't take money out of there.
Okay.
So we're not free to spend that money. It's a fallacy, and a lot of people don't understand that.
No,
That
I
we're
know.
not allowed to take that money and spend it in other places. That money is zoned for that district only. Till that project's complete, and then
And then
the
you're
town
coming
will
over.
pick another area.
I know.
Right.
We're waiting.
Well,
Hey,
but I will say this, and I live in Onset, so I think a couple of minutes is warranted. One of my questions was, as I drove up after your announcement that there would be no barrels, and I told you that, I wasn't sure, but I would give you a shot at it. I think it was 2 or 3 days later, I'm driving up to Stonebridge, and on my left-hand side is a barrel. So, by having a policy in effect that says take in, take out, there won't be any barrels, there was a barrel. I saw a picture of it in the paper with bags all around it. Well, what do you expect?
Yeah, it was there.
If the barrel's there, they're going to fill it and overfill it.
There's also
So excuse me.
sorry.
So, one, I was surprised to see that in how the policy selectively placed barrels, or maybe that was a mistake. I'm not sure how that barrel ended up there, and then I saw more barrels. So, if you have a take-in, take-out policy, why the barrels? I understood there would be no barrels. That would be my first question.
Yep, absolutely. And you're probably not going to like the answer, but the first step was to remove them from the beach. And as municipal maintenance had the staff, we continued to remove the rest of the barrels on there. And I'm sorry it wasn't an overnight operation, but we were working through it to get them through.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
My understanding was there would be no barrels.
No.
The second point, and we can discuss this in our next meeting, because to me, in my way of thinking, this is not a revenue issue. And I brought this up before. We continue as a town to park for free, to give away parking. I think the whole, from Memorial Day until just a week and a half ago, we gave away free parking. We still haven't seen any kiosks. We continue. I don't know who was there the other day with a little sign at Lopes Field, parking $10, fireworks. Who?
Guilty.
Who was there? And they have no right to be there without this board's approval. They're using town property. There's insurance issues there for a private organization.
No, they did get town approval.
From, I don't recall that. And if it came before this board and it was authorized, I apologize. I don't remember seeing that on an agenda.
The last on the 25th, or the day that I was leaving, it came across my desk. I asked them to ask Miss Lindsay, is that special use? Are we charging for that? And unfortunately, by the time I got the email back from everybody, it was yes, so we're charging. And I think the community needs to know, for every single thing going forward, Blues, Cape Verdean, they will not be charging in those spots. The town will be charging $10 per spot. Do you understand how much that would go towards? I mean,
And
we
again,
spent-
When are you going to start doing that?
Again, reclaiming my
festival.
floor,
Wait to
Mr.
recognize,
Chairman.
please.
Well, let me
Reclaiming
tell
my
you-
floor.
Hold on,
I'm ma-
hold on. One at a time, please.
I'm making a point here. Once again, we're giving away this revenue, right? And there are other areas. People just, I saw the sign, $10. I thought I'd see you and maybe Nora sitting there, right? Collecting $10. And it had nothing to do with the town.
It
Town-
did go to the fireworks fund.
Again, we cannot
Ma'am,
keep
again,
interrupting here.
Mr. Titlebaum, please. It did not go to the town. That's town property. That should be, if anybody's going to use that property, it should be sanctioned by this board, just like any other piece of town property, for any reason. If there was an injury there or something happened there, I see my learned friend shaking his head, we would have an issue of liability in that lot. That's town-owned property, and there's no piece of paper that says the fireworks committee used this or Steve Holmes used this and has waived all liability to the town of Wareham. Somebody falls there getting out of their car. I mean, people will sue anybody today, and without a piece of paper, that shouldn't be happening. But back to my point. I think at our executive meeting, we should raise this issue, because if we, the town, have a parking, I think I called it a parking department a few weeks ago, right? And we have a parking department from May 1st to October 1st. Part of that is collecting revenue from kiosks, parking tickets, our land being used for the town revenue. Then you're able to say, okay, we take that money that's in there and run a business with it. Part of that business is to keep the place clean. And now, if you can do it, I understand years ago everybody did it, but now we have unions, we have regulations against hiring, filling jobs, and all these other things that go on with labor, right? But if you're able to hire, I think I used the number 15 for the summer, the money would come from places we're not getting revenue now. So it would be an increased revenue to the town. You'd have a better looking beach, and you would have revenue coming in. Revenue. Amazing. What a thought in a town that has no revenue, right? And we have an expense issue. Well, we have a revenue issue. We're not collecting all the money we should be out there collecting. So it all ties together. But if you just keep letting people putting tables up and collecting money, we should be doing that. And shame on us for not doing that. If there's a decision that we should have made, it's that one. And to manage our land and collect the money that we should be, even the parking places. We still haven't seen a kiosk yet. I mean, you know, I do kiosks. 6 weeks from manufacturer to location. It's been 2.5 months.
July 19th.
Yeah. Okay. I'm hopeful that you're accurate. So I think there are suggestions here, but you're either going to have the policy and enact it or you're not. I don't think there's a midway here. Put the barrels out and pick them up, or don't. But you can't go halfway, because then you're not educating anybody that way. And then shame on us for the big piles of garbage if you're going to leave barrels there and not empty them every 30 minutes. Because that's what it takes to one of those little barrels to be filled up in 30 minutes. Maybe an hour. So that's my spiel on it, but I think it's not a revenue problem. It's just that we're not managing that to capture the revenue.
Hi, my name's Jamie Souza, and I've been in Onset for about 20 years or so working. I have 3 daughters, and I manage about 70 apartments in Onset Village, and I also manage about 12 commercial spaces in the village. I also run a small business next door to the Quahog Republic. And I'd like to say that though I think what you're trying to do with educating about, you know, I get the idea of the trash, you know, you bring it in, you take it with you. I get that. But I don't think you planned it well at all. I think it's horrible that there's no barrels for people. And unless you're in that village from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night and see and hear the comments that people are making about things like not having trash barrels, I don't think you'd really understand it. I also don't feel like it's going to encourage new businesses to come into the village when they don't see that our town offers any amenities in a beach community. They should be in place for people to throw their trash in. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. I can tell you that I'm constantly, every day, and I see the people that they're talking about when I come into the village, the nice people picking up the trash throughout all the way up Onset Avenue. And I myself, every morning when I come to work, the first thing I do is start picking up the loose trash that's on the grass field across from the pier. And I used to pick it up, and I'll put it in my own barrel. But as I'd go up further on Onset Ave, I would put it into the town barrels. I would pick it up. Yes, I keep gloves in my car. I'm constantly picking up trash. And it's not a good thing to not have barrels in our village. We need them. Are there going to be some bad people that are going to take advantage of them? Yes, there's always going to be uneducated people. But there's a lot of good people too. And they deserve to be able to come into a nice, beautiful village. And if they have something to throw in a barrel, they should be able to do that. Or they should be knowledged or educated that we don't offer those things way ahead of time. And there's nothing. Certainly I didn't know anything about it, and I'm there every day. I think we were all very shocked. And you're right, there's barrels in some places, and they're gone in others. Same thing with our bathrooms. You know, we have the business owners. Not only now do people come in and use our bathrooms because either they're locked or they're filthy dirty and people don't want to even go near them, they'll come into our businesses to use ours. And you know what? I won't turn them away because then they're going to get an even worse taste in their mouth. I don't understand why people don't see what we have in that village. That place is a gold mine. It's beautiful. You come to our village, you're captured, you want to come back. But they're not going to want to come back if they have nothing there to help them when they're there visiting. It's just not right. And I think you should appreciate the people in the village because without them doing what they do every day, that place would not be pretty or attractive, really, because it doesn't take much. The wind blows things around. The barrels that we used to have were horrible because they had no covers on them, so the trash constantly blew out. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't understand why they're not barrels there. I don't get it. It just makes no sense to me. And I think it's it's just not a good thing. So I hope you guys will really try to rethink it, especially over in that village where we do get so many tourists that come. I just hope you start caring about us a little bit, that's all. We want to work with you guys. It's not, certainly everybody's doing their best to make that place stay beautiful.
No, we do appreciate the work of Mr. Wheeler and everybody else who steps forward to try to pick up the slack. The signs, as I understand it, are coming. One thing that struck me just sitting here listening tonight is if you go to any of the state beaches run by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, you will see bags up for dog poop. Mm-hmm. And they're not put there just because people don't want to step in dog poop. They're put there because dog poop equals beach closures. And so if you go to Wallaston Beach, if you go to Nantasket, if you go to Revere, you'll see these stands with bags hanging from them. And that's something that could easily be translated into the trash problem. You walk onto the beach, hey, look, there's a pole over there. Get your trash bag here, you pack it out. It's a lot easier to pack your pizza plates and your boxes and all your other junk if you've got a bag to put it in than if you're trying to, stuff it all under your arm and carrying it out free range.
Right.
And that may be something that's a
And we
a
don't even
solution
know
that
what to
helps.
say to that. Like, I mean, when somebody's, is there a place that I can throw my trash? What do I say? Not just take it with you? Well, what if they're not going right in their car? What if they're going to walk down the street and go shopping? Do they carry a bag of trash with them the whole way? I don't get it. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we didn't, the decision and the support of the trash policy wasn't made because we necessarily wanted to make life harder for anybody in Onset. It was made out of a fiscal reality, which is we didn't have the money to pay the municipal maintenance workers overtime to the tune of $2,500 a weekend to go pick up the trash. It wasn't, the money just was not in the budget. And, the impacts may be large in Onset, but I can tell you as a resident of Tempest Knob, with that boat ramp there, which has about 30 spots for boats, that's nothing compared to what you see in Onset. But when you have a barrel down there, it is filled up by 9 a.m. on a Saturday by just the voters that come in. They dump their Dunkin' Donuts stuff in there, whatever they picked up on the way, and by noontime it's overflowing. And so it's a town-wide issue, trash. It's not just Onset. I understand Onset gets the biggest influx of visitors, and also has the most businesses catering to tourists, especially in terms of feeding them. But it's a town-wide problem. But the difficulty is affording the cleanup. So we thank you for coming forward tonight and letting us know your concerns. We can't promise you instantaneous results. We will continue
Well, what can you promise us?
I'll be honest with you. I believe the flavor of the board is to continue with the policy, probably through this summer, and probably reassess at the end of the summer.
So what can we expect to have to be educating the people that come into our town? Are we going to have
Mr. Sullivan has
signs?
ordered signs.
Yeah, can you tell me what we're going to expect? How many signs?
For Onset, 20 signs.
20
I would
signs?
ask that the business owners explain to people as well. I can print up signs for the businesses to have in there as well.
Okay.
This is part of educating the entire community. We need your help on it. We really
but
do.
we need your help too, because we need to hear what's going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
I'm just now hearing that you've ordered signs. I didn't realize that. So just educate me. Tell me. What
All right.
else is there? So we're going to have signs. Do we know where they're going to be positioned?
That's going to be municipal maintenance is going to work on that. We're going to have them right before the beaches. We have
What about on
listed
Onset
on
Ave?
there, if I could,
Anything there?
please, if I could continue.
Yes, of course.
Wareham has a strict carry-in, carry-out trash policy, up to $500 fine. Please take your trash with you. It's probably one of the simplest signs. It's not beautiful. It's going to be simple. Our employees, as well, the harbor masters, are educating people. I would ask Nemasket Kayak, but what is the town offering for people? You're right, that is a jewel. It's probably one of the most gorgeous sandy beaches I've ever seen. I have family that lives out in the Cape. It's a rocky beach that people are paying a fortune for. That is gorgeous. And we are offering a free beach for people to come and enjoy. We do not charge for the beach. That is free for anyone to come and enjoy. Yes, there's parking that's charged on the pier. There's free parking throughout the rest of the town, that area as well. That's what we're offering. One of the most beautiful spots, you are right, that I believe, not on the Northeast, but on the entire East Coast here. So that's what people are being offered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not much to ask for them to carry their trash out with them. Other towns, other state beaches, state parks do it. This is not the first place that has ever thought of this. Now, I believe you're right. The execution and the timing was not good.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in this system.
It's very difficult for the businesses in Onset because it's such a short season. These people have to pay rent year-round, but they have about 3 months to make some money to pay it. It's nice to be able to have things for the tourist that are there to help the tourist enjoy their vacation. A place to go to the bathroom that's clean and sanitary, that's maintained, and barrels to throw their trash in, an empty cup of coffee, whatever it is. That's not, I don't think that's a lot to ask for. I really don't.
One of the things I think
And I think
is
you're going to need a lot more than just some signs, and I hope that you're going to have the signs on Onset Ave, not just the beaches. I hope they're going to be on the avenue, and I hope the police are going to be aware of these fines that should be in place.
they are aware.
Okay, I
They're
do.
currently we have the summer seasonals that started July 1. They're all aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things we're missing is, you're right, seasonal community. We need to get people into Onset in the winter, fall, and spring as well. And that's where we should be concentrating on. And that's what I would love to work with people on. That's not just a summer spot. That's gorgeous all year round. Should have winter festivals. It's a beautiful spot.
It's a great idea. And we do have a Christmas in the parks, and we do have a Halloween festival. And I think we're just kind of beating this around the bush right now. And one of the things that was suggested was that we form some sort of a coalition and schedule a meeting with the town administrator. And can we do that at this time, schedule a meeting? Aha.
I would say no, because I don't have my phone with me that tells me exactly where to be when.
Okay.
So, but I would welcome if my email address is dsullivan@wareham.ma.us. The phone number's 295.
I do know it, and I do know your phone number. And I don't mean to be picky, but I have called you and I have emailed, and I have not gotten a response from either one.
Susan
So-
Green.
Yeah,
It's
I've spoken to Susan,
3110.
and I've spoken to Shirley, and I know you were busy with town meeting and budget, and that's what everybody said to me, oh, he's really busy. But then when it was over and I still didn't get a response, I thought, what's going on here? So we will call you, and we would like to schedule a meeting.
And there is a parking meeting tomorrow night at Salerno's, Mr. Holmes, just so you know.
Sorry?
You had brought up the parking. There's a meeting tomorrow night at Salerno's. I don't know if you're aware of that. And maybe you guys could start charging for parking.
You know,
And
there's
that
a
way,
lot of
and that way
revenue.
we'd have some money for trash barrels.
Yes, tomorrow night at Salerno's at 5:30 is the
There is-
parking survey meeting.
Right, for Cedar.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
for
right.
Cedars parking plan.
Well, I
But-
know
but
Selectman Holmes had one
that-
last comment.
That doesn't help the money that we're not collecting today. That's a study being done
Right.
by CETA.
Yeah, I know.
Has nothing to do with collecting money and parking in Onset.
Well, that's not what we were told. We told that it would have to do with
Well,
collecting
it's a study.
money.
They're doing a study.
Right.
I'm talking about collecting money.
Right.
I'm not talking about studies. I'm talking
Well,
about revenue.
Nobody
Talking
stopped.
about
Yeah,
right.
it's a
We have
great
parking
idea.
space. We have a parking space that we can collect money on tomorrow morning
Yeah.
if we sat somebody
It
there.
is a great idea. We thought of it before you, so
Right.
now you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It has nothing to
We've
do
been-
with studies.
We've
I mean,
been
that's
working on
great.
that too. So.
It doesn't cost $10,000 to figure out that you can park somebody to charge somebody to park their car. It doesn't take $10,000
No,
to do that.
no.
You had one
I wanna
comment, I
get
guess,
back
on
to
the-
one other point.
Yeah.
Because I think what's not in any of these people's minds is, and it's not part of the conversation, is one of the reasons I was given for this trash in, trash out, if you call it that, was the fact that it was a revenue issue. I don't believe there should have been a revenue issue, but there is, right? And what I think some people are forgetting is we sent, as a town, many people home, lost their jobs, people with families, residents of our town, unemployment, right? So I think we all agree that trash is an issue, but I feel somewhat hard for those families who now have no job and no income. So I think you need to think about them too.
I'm sorry, I don't even
Well,
know what you're
it's either,
talking about.
well, if you don't know what I'm talking about,
I'm not getting where
you're not getting it. It's pretty simple. It's a matter of dollars and cents. If we take the extra, if we take the extra $30,000 and put it into barrels and people to empty those barrels, we maybe would have had to send 5 more employees home, and there's 5 more employees on welfare and 5 more employees without. We had to send enough home already. And so when it came time for him to make his recommendations, I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm assuming that this is one of the issues that he took into consideration. You could have the barrels, you could have the pickups, but then we would have to send 3 more families home without any income. So you got to realize that that happened too at the same time the barrel pickup stopped, or we would have had to send more people home. We did send people home, and they have lost their jobs as of July 1. I'm not sure if people are aware of that.
No, I am definitely aware of that, and
So-
I sympathize with the position the town is in, and we all want to work together to bring this back to where it should be.
Yeah, and I think the meeting will be helpful, but I also, I keep repeating it, and I will until we start collecting money. But we're giving away a lot of free stuff here, and if we were collecting the revenue tomorrow morning on people parking their car somewhere, then maybe we could work on the summer program.
You know,
as long as
you're
our
not
labor-
saying anything that I haven't heard from so many people. Why isn't the town collecting money? Look at everybody coming here for free.
Well, and I think in his defense, he's only been here a few months. He has instituted, or will, on July 19th, the kiosk program. And I've also recommended that any revenue come from there go to buy more kiosks until everybody's paying to park down there. I don't know any community you can go to and park for free at the beach. I just don't.
No,
I mean, maybe
I
that
don't
happens,
either.
but
No,
I don't
I
think
agree.
so. And it's not $5 for the day. You pay a sizable chunk of money to park at the beach, and that's what provides the amenities that you're talking about.
Right.
But it's got to come from revenue. You can't take it out of. You can't send 5 families home to give you those amenities when you're not collecting the revenue on the beach to provide those amenities. Right?
Yeah,
or wrong?
no,
I mean,
no, you're absolutely right, and it's in having parking lots in our, again, that we have from the apartments. I have beachgoers parking in our parking lot because they can't find a spot or whatever the situation. We have no trash barrels now, so it goes into our dumpster. So it's costing us a lot of money too. And it's just, again,
And
I
I
don't
get
think
it in
it's
my
a bad
front-
idea. I just think that people need to be educated and having like the signs and having the plastic bags or just putting it in the newspaper, having the cops walking around talking about that kind of stuff too. Just anything to help.
And
Well,
then,
I've seen
you have that big fireworks display, right?
It was wonderful, wasn't it?
It was
Gorgeous.
absolutely fantastic, but the issue is trash. I mean, I'm picking up trash up past the church,
Yeah.
all over the street, in my yard, neighbors' yards.
Yep.
The bottom line is some people are just pigs.
Right.
And no matter what you do,
Yeah.
no, serious.
No.
Because nobody can afford to chase pigs around. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Okay. Well, thank you all,
All right.
for coming.
Thank you
We have to
very
wrap
very
this up
much.
and get into an executive session, but we did hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
We
appreciate
couldn't
it.
promise the miracle cure.
I
I
know.
wish we could,
I
but
just hope we can work together to get
we will.
something done.
Thank you.
Is it going to hit me? Oh, nice to meet you.
Boo boo. I love it. I'm busy as a cockroach. What's your phone number? So
Okay,
you're
while
the
we're
person
sitting
who
here,
goes
we need
around and picks
a,
up trash every day?
We need a vote to go into executive.
I keep banging on this almost weekly now. We got to.
Yeah. Put a goddamn fence on every one of those things. You know what we're gonna do? You're gonna see. I mean, if we put a fence up and charge parking, somebody's gonna come in and bitch at us. Executive.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to vote to go into executive session, which means that we need to clear the room.
Claire.
Roll call vote, please. Dave.
Did you have a motion?
I don't have one yet.
Oh, no.
Number 3.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes,
Whiteside.
for executive session.
Yes.
Holmes, yes.
Yes.
Slavin, yes. Titlebaum, yes.
God,
We just voted.
I know, but this ain't go. I would go when everybody votes,
There you go. We voted.
and not before.
Are you coming back?
I might.
Okay.
All depends.
I look forward to seeing you. Who,
No, we're
me?
not coming back.
Yeah, 'cause we got some business to take care of.
Can you shut that door? Peter, what were you thinking?
What?
Woo, woo, woo.
I never saw this. Didn't come through me.
So it wasn't even there to be discussed?
Okay, just for the folks who were getting used to their blank TV screen, if you're wondering why we're back, we were opened the meeting around 6 o'clock in regular session, went into executive a little bit after 8:30, and came back out now, and we're going to finish off the agenda in regular session. So may we have the next item on the agenda, please?
Excuse me, we'll go back in order. We have a letter of thanks for Charles Rowley for the work that he did for us last Tuesday. I think everybody in their packet has a copy of the letter. I'll make a motion that you accept the letter and allow the chairman to sign and send the letter out to
Second.
Mr. Rowley.
Okay, anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400.
Sign that for me,
Thank you.
please. Okay, we're not going to bother with item A, which is guidance to the town administrator. We've already done that today. Vote
spades.
in spades. Vote on affordable housing restriction depot crossing. Everybody should have paperwork on that.
With that one, council had only just gotten that, I want to say within the past, not even 48 hours. I felt it was important to have council take a look at it before we did vote, so I would ask the board's indulgence to put this one off, come back to it next week.
That's fine.
That will give council enough time to take a look at it and make sure that the document performs what it purports to do. So we'll come back to that one next week.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Next, we have up the Powers and Sullivan. We have the audit letter, actually the management letter, and also the financial statements. I would like to make a motion that we accept the management letter today.
Second.
Is there anything to be said on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, accepted, 400.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have discussion, vote whether to retain the Clean Water Committee.
Okay, on this one, Mr. Pasevich and Mrs. Jones of the Clean Water Committee were in before the board on June 25th. And at that time, we only had 3 members present, and we delayed a vote until this meeting. I subsequently received an email from Mr. Pasevich indicating that he wouldn't be able to attend at all during July for any follow-up, and asked that we put off such a vote until August. I don't know that any further discussion on this matter is needed, but I'd like to see what the board thinks. Selectman Holmes?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Since I was away last week, I did want to get some comments into the record. Number one, this is not what many perceive this committee to be. Really, the word committee should be struck. This is not a town committee. I did the research on this prior to the change of the board. I'm actually still wondering how it got past April. I gave members of that advisory board, and that's what it is. It's not a town committee. It's never been approved at town meeting. It's never been sanctioned by any town body to create a committee. It was created by the Board of Selectmen as an advisory board only. Therefore, the Clean Water Committee has no authority to do anything but advise the Board of Selectmen. I've been sitting here now 3 years and 4 months. The chairman has come in here once because I called him in here with the chairman of the Board of Health over a letter that was sent by some doctor, presumably representing the town. The Clean Water Committee gave this doctor a report, whatever the case may be. It was more painstaking than it had to be for an advisory board to the Board of Selectmen. So in almost 4 years, 3.5 years, they've never advised the Board of Selectmen of anything. This was created by some past Board of Selectmen. What I suggested to members of the board was, in September, was that they, if they felt that the committee should be a town-sanctioned committee, and I believe some of you got the email, I responded to them. Mrs. Whiteside, you wouldn't have got that email because you weren't on the board yet. This goes back to September-ish. Was I suggested to them that they get together, put an article before town meeting to create a clean water committee for the town of Wareham. They chose not to do that. So the way they sit today, they have really no marching orders, to be honest, from this board or the past board or the past two boards before that. So you have an advisory board out there acting as a committee, and they're not a town-sanctioned committee. So unless this board, there's no other discussion to take place as far as I'm concerned, unless this board wants to have an advisory board on clean water. I mean, we have the Board of Health, we have all these other people out there doing clean water. My recommendation is to abolish the advisory board, and if those members want to continue or want to become a committee, they can take it in November again to town meeting. Oh, I think it was actually I'm sorry, I take that back. Not September for fall. It was February for the spring town meeting. That's what it was. To put an article together for November and before the citizens of the town, just like any other committee is created, and let them petition the legislative body to create a clean water committee. And that's all I got to say on it. But that's the reason that this thing has been dragging around agendas for a while. We had there's a whole list of those committees. I assume you did away with some and kept some, but this one is no different than any of the others. They're not a clean water committee. And that's all there is to it.
So you are then prepared to vote on this tonight?
Oh, I have no, I don't believe the board needs an advisory board on clean water.
Fair enough. Selectman Whiteside, are you prepared to vote on this tonight?
Yes, I am.
Selectman Slavin, are you prepared to vote on this tonight?
Yes.
Well, then the consensus of the board is to vote on whether to, the question, I guess, and the motion should be whether to sunset the Clean Water Committee. If somebody will make the motion so we can vote on it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we sunset the Clean Water Advisory Board to the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 4-0-0.
And I would further request that, Mr. Chairman, if you would send a letter to the advisory board chairman notifying that person of the board's vote, and that they turn over all material in their possession to the clerk of the board ASAP.
That will be done as a pro forma matter. Thank you.
I just want to get it into the record that the request should be made to turn any information over to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Next, we have discussion with the Bike Path Committee. They were here. I basically asked them if they would mind if we reschedule them. What we wanted to do was, a month ago, we had them come before us with the idea that they would give us some issues that that they would need help with, that we could assist them with at the time. They didn't have anything ready to go. And basically, I spoke to Mr. Smith a few minutes ago before we went into executive session. They met today in Carver with the Carver Bike Path, with Serped, and also with AD Makepeace about some provision for a bike path going from Wareham into Carver into Plymouth. But there is no request as of right now, so I've asked David to come back and ask us to be rescheduled when he has some pieces that actually need help. And one of the areas I think we're going to have to do is arrange a meeting with Mass DOT Rail to get a final answer on whether or not they can use property along the side of the rail or not. So when they give us that information, we'll go ahead and reschedule them. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Continued discussion on private public ways, street issue. this is a continuation of last week when we had Mr. Rowley in. What I really would like to do there, with the indulgence of the board, is see if we can get together and schedule an off night or a day when we can sit down and kind of go through the issue and have a discussion on it to see what we can and can't do. Obviously, we already know that in order to make a change to adopt that particular charter, the Mass General Law chapter requires an election type vote, which would be the beginning of April of next year. So that will not solve the issue of plowing for this winter. So we need to sit and talk about that.
Are you asking for this to be done as a separate workshop?
Yes.
With citizens' participation, much like the sewer meeting we had last summer?
I expect we'll have a few of these. We can have it with and with. We could have one possibly without to get our information dialed in, so we're ready to go, and then we'd start to have citizens come in and talk to us at the same time. But I think for the first one, maybe we need to make sure we have everything that we need. Last thing I want to do
I
is
would agree with him.
I don't want to give out information to citizens when we're not positive exactly where we stand. Go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, I'll ask the question again. The town administrator has made a decision to follow a law, correct?
Yes, he has.
In the objectives of Mr. Rowley coming in and having this workshop are what? How to get around the law, how to enforce the law, what?
Mr. Rowley just gave us basic information about how we got to where we were today,
Right.
going back in history, explaining how roads were accepted, not accepted, etc.
Right.
The question to which I don't believe we have a real answer is, can the roads be legally plowed this winter? And that involves an examination of any number of questions and any number of issues. As I understand it, I got to go back and watch the video from last week. As I understand it, Mr. Rowley came in and gave a fairly detailed street acceptance 101 class to the board. That is certainly one means. I don't know that there aren't other means out there. And certainly, I think the citizenry would appreciate our exploring every potential option
Right.
before we go back to them and say no.
And that's my question, is that the goal of the workshop or this agenda item is to try to find a way for the town to legally plow these streets? Is that pretty much the bottom line?
That's how I see it.
It has to be. We can't plow something we're not legally allowed to do.
Okay. No, that's all. I'm not saying it's good or
Yeah.
bad. I'm just saying I want to know what the objective is to this. And I guess we got Mr. Rowley's presentation. Have we asked town council yet for a thorough, documented?
No, we haven't. That's part of what we'll hopefully we'll do with the workshop meeting.
Well, maybe we could make that offer or request tonight, Alan,
Okay.
and then have his written opinion
Preparatory to the workshop.
before the workshop,
Sure.
so that when we sit down, we can discuss what the legal issues are, right?
Yeah, 'cause last-
Instead of waiting until that workshop and saying, "Oh, Mr. Bowen, let's ask him today," and he can have it ready before we do the workshop.
Yeah. What happened last week was, unfortunately, Mr. Bowen came up and started to explain what we were looking at anyways, and we were trying to stay within the parameters of Mr. Rowley, and it got into the legal issue as well. So,
But I think by being proactive and asking for a written opinion by Mr. Bowen,
Mr. Bowen,
and then he can explain it at the workshop.
your
but
convenience.
to have him explain it and then give us something in writing,
That's fine.
I'd like to have it ahead of time so we can read it. What do you think?
Mr. Chair, members of the board,
Yes.
I'm very happy to provide that opinion.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next
item,
when are you
please.
going to schedule? Alan, are you taking the lead in scheduling this?
What I'd ask is, over the next week, because Mr. Tropiano's not here, if people can give me a day, if it's an actual daytime, which would make life easier, or it has to be a night during
Whatever
the week,
works best
during
for
the
people.
weekdays. Weekends for a lot of people have things they schedule, whatever. If it has to be a Saturday morning, so be it. But let's come up with a.
Whatever.
in the next week.
Yeah.
You know, and also just to, with that as well, also on the sewer business, which we talked about contract 2, we're going to need to set a workshop day for that so we can work the same thing out there.
That'd be fine.
The discussion on the turbine and energy committee, we'll put that off and ask the chairman to reschedule that. That's
Yeah, that's
Mr.
instead of
Tropiano's.
Mr. Tropiano's.
Next
brainchild.
item is a continuing piece that we have on there, the Selectmen's policies about starting to pick some out for review and revision. I had asked last week that anybody would go through the areas and pick out some that they were comfortable with before we assign anything.
Could we put that off another week?
The hour is late.
Well, the reason I ask that is that our chairman really was not here. Our town administrator was not here. And I think it's important for the chairman to be aware of, I'm not trying to bury it, I'm just,
Okay. What might be easier is if we all review it and look at the ones that need the revision the most, that are really, the ones that are really way out from reality from today, and make a list and come back and work on those first.
I think that's a very good suggestion, Mr. Slavin.
We can leave the we can leave the agenda item as is, so that it's loose enough to encompass anything within the selectmen's policies. So, we'll put it back on for next week.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Oh,
Make a motion to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? You were late.
He was being polite.
How about a motion to adjourn? Will that be accepted?
Well, does
Has to
Mr.
be
Sullivan have
considered.
anything burning that he wants to get off his chest?
Just one quick thing that I think the town and the selectmen should know. We've unfortunately received notification that the Wareham Career Center is closing for good, and that started July 1st. So, and I'll give you one bit of good news I'll hand out in the memo. The state aid for that's come through the conference committee did give us approximately a net of a little over $78,000 extra. However, until we have the final budget, I wouldn't react to that. And even if we do have that, I think we should hold on to that, because this year the governor used his 9C powers to make cuts mid-year, and that would be a nice buffer so that we're not making essentially double cuts at the middle of the year.
Just one quick piece on the town administrator's report. I would ask that at next week's meeting that we discuss the need for possibly some part-time help in getting the expenses, cost reports done in a way so we can get our stuff in a timely fashion, so we can be proactive rather than reactive. As far as the income part of it goes, I would expect those on a quarterly basis. On a monthly basis really doesn't work well.
I think that that's an excellent idea. I think you have some very good people working for you, with you. But the task before you and them is more than what can reasonably be expected.
It's very difficult to run the town on a day-to-day basis to keep current, and also have to go back and pick up a lot of things that were lacking that you have to fix. It's almost impossible to do both at the same time. And I think we're overloading our people right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have good news. The town accountant has been looking at 3 people and will be interviewing them to bring them in for part of it's to create the recap, to basically do the help with the end of the year. So while they're doing that, we're not falling behind on our monthly. I think we spoke about it, the revenues quarterly make a lot of sense, and having the expenditures within, I believe it would be 15 days, probably can do it less given Vadar, is going to be what's actually going to happen. Now, the one other thing that I'll bring forward is, we're going to have to bring up to the board, is we need to look at a new software for our accounting system and look at the alternatives.
I believe that we brought that question up to Mr. Peacock at the time, but
Yes, we did.
he didn't seem to think it was as an emergency as I thought it was.
So, and I'll stop there. But great minds think alike.
It was
and,
brought up.
Yeah.
Mr. Holmes?
Oh, I just had one quick thing.
Please.
We receive many emails coming in, and I just want to make sure that somebody's given an answer. And I know reply to all is kind of verboten sometimes, but is it appropriate, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Bowen, is appropriate if, let's say, that Mr. Sullivan answers the citizen, and then Mr. Sullivan simply replies to all and says, I've sent an answer or responded to the citizen, because we don't know if that person's been responded to or not. We don't necessarily have to know what the answer is, but we need to know that the person, like, I'll give you a good example. We got an email about a speed on Glen Charlie Road, right? Now, automatically, that should have been responded and forwarded to John Charbonneau, who's in charge of the road commissioners. That has nothing to do with Board of Selectmen anymore. So, but has that been done? We have no way of knowing if anybody answered that, and then it's sitting there, and then next thing you know, you get this email, or someone comes in public and says, you didn't get back to me, right? So I don't know if it's appropriate to answer and then just say, hey, I answered that, or I sent a reply, not divulging the reply. We have to make sure we're addressing that, otherwise you're going to hear stuff like this, like you heard tonight.
If I may. Now, I think that's completely appropriate. You know, in the old days, that sort of thing would have been handled by a selectman's folder in the office, and you would have gone in and you would have seen, you know, the town administrator sent this letter, this letter, that letter. The reason why it's appropriate is because what the open meeting law forbids is secret deliberations. And if you're just getting a copy of a response that the TA sent out to an upset citizen, that's not a deliberation. Now, if it went an extra step and one member said, well, gee, I think Derek really sent a bum answer out there, and then somebody else waited and said, yeah, I agree with that. Not that that would ever happen, Derek. That would be a problem.
No, but it's true, because sometimes I'll see Mrs. Whiteside's response, and then I just move it into a folder. Done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I don't often see other responses, and somebody needs to make sure that. So to be clear, someone could reply to all, as long as that was the end of the email chain.
Yeah, I mean, but the best practice is, you know, if to use the example that you're using, Derek sends a letter out addressing the concern. You know, it's probably best just to leave it there. You know, you received it. You know, try to analogize it to the old days when you had the folder in the office. You know, when you got the piece of paper that was Derek's letter, you know, you wouldn't respond to it. Okay, you got the letter, thank you very much.
Right.
You weren't deliberating.
All right.
That's the best practice.
That's all I had. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.